We'll be touching on the issue of education, specifically on the northern part of the country, in a sense of an already existing marginalization of northeastern. There is another crisis that is happening then. Of course, it is affecting learners in that part of the country because of the teachers who say the security is compromised, and so they're seeking transfers from that part of the country. So really, what is the impact of all of that, and really where do the teachers come from, especially when you're talking about some of these issues and challenges that they're facing? And we'll be hearing from my panelists in a moment with regard to the same when I introduce them. Meanwhile, we're going to have a look at, of course, the news headlines we've lined up for you this morning. Remember, you can always join us in the conversation. The hashtag is MLiveNTV. Now, the Ministry of Interior has released the identity of 36 terror suspects believed to be behind the attacks against civilians and security forces in Lamu County and within the larger Boni enclave. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki says the suspects are connected with the placement of explosive devices, murders of civilians, and the attack on the American military base at Manda in 2020. Rozongoi has more details.
Al-Shabaab militants have turned Lamu County into their playing grounds despite the multi-agency security teams deployed in the region every now and then. The region has recorded an increase in explosives attacks targeting civilians and security officers. 2 months ago, more than 60 heavily armed suspected Al-Shabaab militants ambushed vehicles and sprayed them with bullets at Mwembeni area near Lango la Simba along the Lamu-Witu Garsen route. 2 people were killed, while 10 others were injured during the attack. Now the terror suspects have been unmasked. The Ministry for Interior has released the names and pictures of 36 people believed to be part of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab that has been terrorizing Lamu and Boni residents. Interior CS Kithure Kindiki says the suspects are connected with the placement of explosive devices on various earth roads in the area, the killing of civilians along the Lamu-Witu Garsen highway, the cold-blooded murders of civilians at Lango la Simba, Witu, Mpeketoni, Juhudi, Salama, Hindi and other areas, and the attack on the American military base at Manda Bay on 5th January 2020.
Uchunguzi wetu umeonyesha wao ndio wapangaji wakuu wa mauaji ya wananchi pale Lamu, tateremka pale Lamu, kukaa pale. Na sio tu kukaa, ni kumaliza ile shida.
Intelligence reports and analysis of the attacks in the areas shows a new pattern where the terrorists have been laying attacks in new areas unlike before. The CS has declared an all-out war on the dangerous armed terrorists believed to be linked to Al-Shabaab militants.
Kati ya watu 17 na 19 ambao ni washukiwa wakubwa wa kupanga mauaji pale Lamu. Wengi ni raia, wengine ni raia wa kigeni kutoka nchi jirani ya Somalia. Wengine ni raia wa Kenya ambao wamekubali kuuza nchi yao kwa sababu ambazo hatuelewi.
The government now says it will use all means available to apprehend and punish the perpetrators, including roping in members of the public.
Na tutaomba wananchi wale wako na habari ambayo itatusaidia kuwapata wale watu, watupatie habari na tutatoa zawadi maalum.
The suspects, whose photographs will be circulated widely, have been asked to surrender to the nearest police station, with the government vowing to either arrest or neutralize the terrorist as it seeks to win the war against terror. Rozongoi, NTV.
Meanwhile, the ownership of the disputed Mavoko land not contested. The management of the East Africa Portland Cement has given contradicting statements as to who ordered the evictions by way of demolitions and whether a notice of vacation was given to the affected occupants. The management on one hand claimed not to know who was behind the evictions and later went on to assert that the evictions were facilitated by Portland Cement and the national government. As NTV's Sydney Chazima reports, The DCI has commenced investigations into the matter, summoning Mavoko MP Patrick Makau, the leadership of the Aimi Ma Lukenya Society, among others.
As victims of the Mavoko demolitions continue to salvage whatever remains of their once majestic homes. In its bid to clear the air over the ongoing demolitions in Mavoko, the management of the East African Portland Cement Company came out to give a statement. But it turns out bits of the statement were disjointed and conflicting. First was the question on who exactly ordered the evictions by way of demolitions. The company's board chair, Robert Mbivi, intended to deflect.
The one who has ordered eviction of the squatters stroke the invaders is not contained in my statement, and therefore I'm not ready to answer that question.
When pressed further, Mbivi obliged to the pressure, going even as close as mentioning the amount used to facilitate the demolitions.
Yes, we facilitated that demolition in partnership with the government. We ourselves from East African Portland and the government effected the eviction.
How much?
That one
It is ongoing.
It is ongoing, so we will give you consolidated amount as the exercise comes to a halt.
Despite the court ruling that the land squarely belonged to the EAPC and not the Aimi Ma Lukenya Society, affected occupants of the land claimed that no notice of eviction was served to them, and despite complaining about the inhumane nature of the demolitions, the EAPC management deemed it fit.
The eviction has been carried out in the manner in which the government deemed necessary to do. According to this statement, they had been given several notices to vacate the land.
In his statement last week, President William Ruto expressed the government's desire to use the reclaimed land to expand the EPZ zone. EAPC's board chair could not detail the magnitude of the expansion and when it was bound to start.
Whether urgent or not urgent, when you are occupying an illegal land, you go. And the owner will decide what to do with the land.
The President said they are planning to expand the EPZ.
So you know the answer. Yeah, I think you know the answer.
The company will decide what to do.
The company will decide what to do with the land, including the EPZ, what you had.
Only that it's not timely.
Meanwhile, Azimio leader Raila Odinga, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and a host of other leaders from the coalition were barred from accessing the site of the demolitions.
Without compensation, those who have lost homes will certainly never be able to rebuild. People have suffered here because of failure of the state to control speculation in land, housing and property.
The DCI has stated that it will commence investigations into the matter, with several individuals lined up to help in the investigation, including Mavoko MP Patrick Makau and the leadership of the Aimi Ma Lukenya Society, led by the CEO Julius Mutua. And on Thursday, the Environment and Land Court in Machakos is expected to issue a ruling on whether the demolitions should be stopped or not. Sydney Chazima, NTV.
Well, changing gears now, leaders allied to the Wiper Party are saying that even if Odinga's praises of Kalonzo are not to be construed as endorsement, the use of such a profound description of Kalonzo by none other than Odinga is already a step into the 2027 Azimio presidential ticket. This even as it emerges that there are hushed conversations about a Kalonzo candidature and the ramifications it may have on the coalition. Ibrahim Karanja reports.
With the past 72 hours seeing the endorsement and a subsequent recanting of a Kalonzo Musyoka presidential candidature by coalition leader and long-time ally Raila Odinga, the effects of the words uttered in Bondo is still felt and seen across the faces of coalition members. It is reported that moments before the statement by Dennis Onyango announcing an about turn by Raila Odinga, a section of Luo Nyanza leaders held an underground meeting pondering over their next move in the eventuality Raila Odinga is not on the ballot. Similarly, the statement may have caused some jitters amongst other coalition principals who may feel a direct endorsement of Kalonzo renders their presence in the coalition a waste of time. But Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua, who is amongst Kalonzo's right-hand men, says that whereas an endorsement or lack of it is not their current concern, Raila Odinga's words confirms of Kalonzo's readiness to the mantle.
Raila Amolo Odinga has made the work of the supporters of Kalonzo very easy. He has told the world who Kalonzo is. And if this is what Raila believes that Kalonzo is, and I believe that it is, then these are characters of a person fit for purpose to be president of the Republic of Kenya.
Whereas Wambua agrees that it is too early to name a candidate, he also refutes a statement by Odinga's press secretary Dennis Onyango that the candidate will be named a year or even months to the 2027 polls.
We are not going to be waiting until that last year or a few months into an election, because that's where we miss it all the time. We need to begin to prepare ourselves as a coalition in good time to capture the presidency of this country. Those of us in Wiper have clarity on that matter.
It now emerges that the attempts to recant the statement by Odinga are in a bid to save the coalition from an imminent fallout too early. Some ODM members of parliament who spoke in camera saying that Odinga's statement was the true position, whereas others, still from the same party, stating that they were only pampering Kalonzo as they pamper all other visitors to Luo Nyanza. Their Wiper counterparts, however, disagree with the latter's position.
These were things that were being said at a family setting.
Does that add the weight to it?
A lot of weight. A lot of weight. If as a politician, I could say whatever I have to say out there, but in presence of my parents, my brothers, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, I will be very measured what I say.
Dennis Onyango, I don't know him. I don't know who he is in Azimio. Yeah, because Azimio, we know ourselves.
It will be absurd, unfair, and very immature that such comments can be said that Baba really endorsed at this time.
The ongoing talks between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio through the National Dialogue Committee are also believed to be among the reasons for the recanting of the statement, with observers arguing that an announcement that Odinga is no longer in active politics may lead to the scuttling of the talks, especially by the Kenya Kwanza side. Ibrahim Karanja, NTV.
Meanwhile, investigators in Eldoret are trying to solve the mystery behind the death of a taxi driver. John Mwiruri went missing. His car was later found with changed number plates in a residential area before his body was recovered in a tea plantation in Nandi County 3 days after he was reported missing. Gabriel Kudaka reports from Eldoret.
John Mwiruri is said to have received a call from someone posing as a client. It would have been another normal trip for him. It wasn't.
Nilipompigia masaa yenye huwa anakuja na nikasikia simu yake inaitana tu. Nikawa na wasiwasi mpaka Sunday asubuhi nikaamkia nikaenda kuripoti. Na nikaenda polisi nikaripoti ya kwamba kuna mtu ambaye amepotea na ni mume wangu. Na nikaanza uchunguzi kwa maana nilienda kwa DCIO na hapo nikapewa katraka ambao nilianza uchunguzi.
Investigation would later lead her and a team of detectives to this home in Kapsoya where they found the deceased's car with changed number plates.
Yangu ilikuwa KCY ambao ni 824S na wakati nilienda nikapata hilo gari niliona limebadilishwa na ikawa ni KCS 659. So nikawa na wakati wa kujiuliza maswali na nikakuwa nimeshuku kalile gari
2 people were arrested, the owner of this home and the person who drove Mwiruri's car to this home. They were, however, released on bond last Monday, just a few hours before the family received shocking news of Mwiruri's death.
Nilisikia ni uchungu sana, nikasikia nimelia kwa sababu wakati wa hiyo ni mandi, wakati wanatoka na bondi, mume wangu hajapatikana.
Haki itendeke kwa maana mimi nilijiona sijui kusoma, lakini nauliza kabisa ni kwa nini wamewachiliwa.
The family of the late John Mwiruri is skeptical about the manner in which investigations are being conducted and is now calling for justice.
Alikuwa pia ni msaada kwetu. Angewacha mtu kwa barabara. Angekosa kusalimia mtu yeyote. Pati sijawahi sikia fujo na mtu yeyote. Hiyo miaka yote nimemjua.
Ainabukoi Sub-County Commander of Police Alois Madoka says one of the suspects has been rearrested and arraigned in court.
We have to restart with our investigation to go again and rearrest the persons so that they can face the charges of murder/robbery.
There has been a spate of robberies involving theft of motor vehicles in Eldoret, which are sometimes vandalized for sale of spare parts.
Last week, tulikuwa na gari ambayo ilikatakatwa, tukashika watu 5 wakafishwa kotini na in same style wakaombewa bond wakaachiliwa before DCI akamilishe investigation yake. Kwa hivyo ni crime tunaona imezuka, sio haikuwa hapo mbeleni.
A post-mortem is expected to be conducted on his body this Wednesday. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
And the management of Kimathi Primary School in Nairobi's Kimathi Estate is on the spot. This is after a student allegedly died in the school's swimming pool, an allegation that the school's administration has refuted. Here now is NTV's Brian Mushiri with that story.
Tuesday afternoon at the Kimathi Primary School. Everything looks normal. Learners are playing in the field while some others are in classes. However, the dark cloud of death has been here not too long ago. This swimming pool is at the center of it. On Monday, parents and guardians were here, up in arms as they were demonstrating the death of a grade 6 pupil, 12-year-old Handas Kanyora. According to the parent, Scholastica Nyabura, the school management engaged her after her son Handas Kanyora died. According to Nyabura, she was told that her son fell in the swimming pool after going without food for 2 days.
How come mimi hawakuniitia mtoto wangu akiwa uhai? Walikuwa wamekuja baka na bag ya vitabu, bag ya mtoto wangu iko na vitabu. Uko hospitali. Anasema alianguka kwa swimming pool. Atijua alikuwa na njaa. Hakuwa amekula usiku, hakuwa amekula asubuhi.
Nyambura says that the head teacher, Mr. Abubakar, has directed the teachers on what script to follow with regards to the mysterious death. Further, the mother claims that the class teacher to the late Handas Kanyora sat close friends of the deceased in class, isolating them from the rest of the students and instructed them on what to say.
Vile walibeba mtoto hivi kwa mabega wakamtoa kwa class. Walimpeleka wapi na huyo mtoto alikuwa amefanyikiwa na nini? Ndio wamwekelea hapa kwa mabega. Huyo mtoto alikuwa amefanyikiwa na nini? Vile waliita hao marafiki wa Kanyora, wakawarudisha kwa class. Wakiwa peke yao, walienda kuwaambia nini?
Our visit to the school was not welcome. I was briefly allowed to speak to Mr. Abubakar, who is the school's head teacher. He was neither willing to speak on camera nor be quoted. Abubakar maintains that no student drowned in the school swimming pool. Further, he arrogantly told me off to the higher chain of command within the Ministry of Education, saying that journalists will always misreport the facts. About this demonstrating parents, Abubakar says that they were drunkards whose child had died outside the school premises but were demonstrating with the hope of being bought off by the school. By the end of our engagement in the school, police presence had also been significantly beefed up. There are, however, some glaring questions in the manner in which matters seem to have been handled there. First, police presence in the school was wanting for a public primary school. Secondly, there seems to be significant discrepancies in the stories leading to the death of Handas Kanyora. And thirdly, is this sign erected at the school's gate, directing that swimming at the school has been temporarily closed. Coincidence or cover-up? Brian Mushiri, NTV, Nairobi.
All right, thanks, Mushiri, for that. Well, time to look at what's making headlines in the papers this morning. I have all the papers with me, but also just to give you a glimpse of what we'll be touching on in just a moment with my panelists. And I can see one of them has joined us here in studio and also virtually. I'll be introducing them shortly. Well, just to give you a glimpse of that is that we'll be talking about the issue of education, specifically in the northern part of the country, where teachers are requesting for a transfer of issues of security, and also then some of those teachers have been interdicted by the Teacher Service Commission. Where does that leave the education of the learners in that part of the country, especially coming at a time where we are heading to national exams? Of course, is this going to put them in jeopardy? That's a conversation we want to have. In studio, I am with Julius Korir, who's the National Vice Chairperson of KUPPET. A very good morning and good to see you. Joining us virtually is Mohammed Abdinur, who's a former teacher, a humanitarian, as well as a development consultant, and we'll be hearing from him as well. A very good morning, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, great. And in just a moment, we'll also have Peter Munga, who is an education researcher at K-Water. But let me give you a glimpse of the papers this morning. This is what we have on the DN. MPs facing probe, all right? It's all about the issue of the Mavoko land saga. And they're saying the red flags that homeowners ignored. One of the clearest signals that the East African Portland cement land dwellers would lose their access emerged in November last year. It came from the then Trade Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria. We're going to get that story, page 6 and 7 of the DN. And who are the persons of interest in this particular matter? You have the Mavoko Member of Parliament, Patrick Makau, who is among the 30 individuals, including officials of land buying companies, former police chiefs, and land registrars who were summoned by detectives over the sale and settlement of squatters on parcels claimed by Cement Farm. It's on page 5 of the DN, and also just a little bit on the sidelines of the front page. Ruto pitches for SGR linking Africa's east and western coast. Well, that's President William Ruto yesterday, who pitched a continental political willingness to expand infrastructure networks to Chinese investors seeking to appeal to Beijing to consider extending the stalled standard gauge railway beyond Kenya's borders. You can get that story as well. Let's see what else we have inside. Kisii churches protest at bid to tax them for overnight prayers. That's a story on the second page of the Daily Nation. All right, so you have pastors in Kisii who are up in arms over plans by the county government to tax churches that hold night vigil prayers, commonly known as Keshas. It's part of the County Finance Bill 2023. And of course, it's already been passed by the Kisii County Assembly. It proposes that churches wishing to hold these Keshas will have to pay about 5,000 shillings per week. But now the preachers are up in arms with regard to that particular matter. Meanwhile, key suspect Kavura put on her defense in the 791 million NYS case. That's former Devolution Principal Secretary Peter Mangiti walked free in the 791 million NYS case. The key suspect, Josephine Kavura, has now been put on her defense, with the court citing glaring omissions and gaping holes in this particular case. It's a detailed ruling on the case to answer, on no case to answer. Milimani Law Court's Magistrate Wendy Misheni taking issue with the failure by the witness, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, to testify in this case. You can get that whole story inside the DN as well. Meanwhile, let's see what else we have here. Raila pushing for overhaul of ODM Elections Board. That's the ODM leader Raila Odinga pushing for a complete overhaul of the party's National Elections Board as he begins to revamp the outfit for the 2027 polls and, of course, the readiness to those elections. Meanwhile, the party is said to have resolved to kick out the current officials before installing another team to supervise its grassroots elections scheduled for the first quarter of next year. Meanwhile, Kenya Power is set to give minority owners more board seats in reforms in terms of what happened during the extraordinary general meeting of its shareholders next month to amend its laws to give minority shareholders more say in the appointment of directors to the company's board. Meanwhile, MP police among 30 called for questioning of a Mavoko land, according to flags owners of houses built there was quite crushed dreams yesterday as bulldozers brought down their houses on day 5 of demolition honors. It says this particular red flags owners of houses built on the EAPCC land ignored. You can have a look at that story. It's a full splash on 2 pages of the DN to give you really an in-depth analysis of exactly what could have gone wrong. Also, just for your information, how to avoid falling victim of fraudsters. What would you do if you want to be a legitimate landowner? There are some things you really need to consider before you buy landowner. There are some things you really need to consider before you buy land in Kenya, and there are steps that you need to be able to follow for you to not be conned. You can get that. There's the issue of ground verification, doing a search at the land registry, land rates, land map. You need to have a sale agreement. You know, there's an issue of land control board, land valuation, securing transfer documents. Well, the DN has just given you a general overview, really what you need to put in mind before you decide to buy land in the country so you don't fall victim to these things. Meanwhile, the state has named 36 wanted terror suspects, and the government releasing these names behind the Al-Shabaab inspired terror attacks in Lamu and the Boni enclave. The group includes Kenyans, Tanzanians, Somalis, Ethiopians, a British national and a Bangladeshi national, all together. They are linked to the planting of IEDs on various dirt roads in the area. We've seen the death of civilians along the Lamu-Witu-Garsen highway. There's the issue of the cold-blooded murder of civilians in Lango la Simba, Witu, Mpeketoni, Juhudi, Salama, Hindi, and other areas, and the attack on the American military base in Manda Bay on the 5th of January 2020. And so you have the government saying these individuals are behind the Al-Shabaab inspired terror attacks in that part of the country, and now has declared an all-out war on dangerously armed terrorists linked to the Al-Shabaab militants who bear the greatest responsibility for the recent gruesome killings of civilians and security personnel. And they had already given out those names. We saw that in the report that we showed earlier on. Meanwhile, let me just wind up on the DN. Fact-finding trip to Ezekiel Church raises more queries than answers. Well, you have this controversy still rocking a Monday visit by a Senate ADA committee to controversial preacher Ezekiel Odero's vast New Life Prayer Center in Kilifi County, with now questions lingering on the financier of the trip. Details emerging of how the 11-member team investigating the Shakahola massacre visited Mavueni without a single technical staff, as is required of a parliamentary committee for a fact-finding mission. Adding fuel to the controversy, some members of the committee gave the visit a wide berth, citing personal reasons. All right, this is coming at a time when, you know, as the committee is accused the named senior officials in President William Ruto's administration of frustrating its work after the controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie and chief government pathologist Dr. Johnson Oduor yesterday snapped a session with the members of parliament. So you can get that full report inside the DN as well. Very quickly on Taifa Leo, uhuni wa mchana, it says, utata unaogubika ubomoaji wa makazi katika eneo la Mavoko Athi River, Machakos, umeonyesha unafiki kampuni ya EAPCC ikibomoa nyumba huku ikiuza ardhi yake. It's a full splash on the second page of Taifa Leo, and it's all about the controversial demolitions of houses, their properties at the EAPCC land in Mavoko. And of course, all that you need to find out, it's on your Taifa Leo. Meanwhile, mashaka ya Mwangaza yaendelea. This is the MCAs who are now beginning mchakato wa pili wa kumwondoa afisini kwa gavana wa Meru Mwangaza kwa misingi ya mashtaka. Okay, you can get that as well on Taifa Leo. Very quickly on the BD, tax cheats ditch mobile payments to beat KRA. The Kenya Revenue Authority flagging a growing number of business owners ditching mobile merchant payment accounts and reverting to cash transactions since it enhanced compliance checks in major towns last month. The taxman saying it has noted a trend where businesses which choose to get payments through Lipa na M-Pesa, buy good steal numbers, are now asking customers to pay in cash. It's coming after a month after the KRA deployed some 1,000 revenue service assistants and paramilitary training to help enhance tax compliance among traders, including facilitation of online registration of businesses. Meanwhile, Kenya Power flouted own rules in smart meter tenders. It's the issue of the procurement watchdog, which has thrown Kenya Power under the bus over the acquisition of 5.4 billion smart meters in a deal that has been blamed for delays in connecting hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses to the national grid. And of course, the Public Procurement and Regulatory Authority says Kenya Power awarded Smart Meters Technology Limited the multi-billion shilling tender despite failing to deliver 91,000 electricity meters in a previous contract. Okay, you can get that on your Business Daily publication this morning. Just on the ticker very quickly, fuel levy collections also dropped by nearly 1 billion on higher taxes, and the EIB to audit GDC, 428 million shillings funding used, and Dubai-based luxury travel firm Mifta has now entered Kenya. It's a luxury travel service provider. It's called Mifta Concierge, which has launched operations in Kenya as a springboard for Africa expansion as well. Meanwhile, very quickly on the East African, just to give you an overview of a weekly publication of regional news, is that Museveni's 2025 oil plan rigged up, and rigs, financiers, oil majors are aligned to deliver this legacy project. What could possibly go wrong? Many things. Well, you can get that on page 4 to 5 of the East African publication this morning. Also, I do have the hard copy of the Standard, and it just basically also covers on its front page everything that is happening to the Mavoko land issue, and of course the DCI going after the Member of Parliament, police bosses over that land. And it also talks about the issue of the 6 police officers, 2 county heads, officials of Aimi Lukanya Society and Mavoko MP Patrick Makau were expected to shed light on how Portland land was sold fraudulently. Pages 2 to 3 of the Standard. Foreigners among Lamu most wanted terrorists there. We had that on the Daily Nation as well. And also the issue of inside battle for control of Prime Cement's farmland. And Raila Kalonzo raised queries on rushed evictions as probe begins, and why Anyang' Nyong'o wants Cuban doctors to continue working. That is on the Standard. And on the Star this morning, who bankrolled members of Parliament's trip to Ezekiel's church? Well, reports indicate visit was financed by preacher, but Senate leadership remains tight-lipped on this particular matter. So that is what is on the Star. Now, just to wind up on the paper now and to get into a conversation this morning, to remind you, it's all about education in the northeastern part of the country. And of course, it's coming in light of the request for transfer by the teachers who say that they fear for their lives due to insecurity in that region. Well, let's listen into what some of the teachers had to say with regard to that in a story we had filed earlier on in the week.
Non-local teachers serving in different parts of northeastern Kenya had sought transfers due to rising insecurity. Now they have suffered a major blow after the Teacher Service Commission interdicted them.
To date, instead of being given transfers, teachers are being interdicted. So far, we have about 46 teachers have received their interdiction letters, but 129 have been exited from the TSC system.
In letters addressed to the teachers, TSC directed the interdicted teachers to immediately vacate office and provide evidence of why they needed the transfer.
The letter says that we stay away from the working station. We forfeit our annual leave.
This comes barely a month after the National Assembly Committee on Education ordered the non-local teachers seeking transfer to be moved to other areas.
Those teachers should not be interdicted. Those teachers need to be paid their salaries. And two, we are also calling on the local leaders to mop up any local teacher to be recruited.
By August 18th, 129 teachers were yet to report to their workstations in Mandera, Wajir and Garissa counties. The Teacher Service Commission insisted that learning will be affected in those areas should it transfer the teachers, since most of them are non-locals.
It's clear that majority of teachers teaching in northeastern regions are non-locals. While it is true that the incidences of insecurity have adversely affected their performance, the much sought mass transfer by non-local teachers from the areas will make an already dire situation a real crisis, bringing education in the region to a standstill.
Non-local areas are definitely feeling threatened, but that threat is affecting even the locals who are living in that part.
The teachers' crisis began in 2014 when the region lost 28 teachers after a bus they were traveling in while heading to Nairobi for the December holidays was attacked. In August, hundreds of teachers drawn from Mandera, Wajir and Garissa counties camped outside the Teacher Service Commission headquarters in Nairobi, demanding transfers over insecurity.
We are not going to go back there. And again, it's now the mechanisms of the schools to reorganize themselves and see how the national exams are going to be attended.
The commission is now caught between implementing its obligation to staff every public primary school in Kenya and the responsibility to protect the lives of its employees. Fatma Bogu, NTV, Mombasa.
And of course, even on Monday, the situation was not looking good. We had teachers who had camped outside the Teacher Service Commission headquarters here in Nairobi. There's a bit of a fracas, if you can get those particular pictures there. Some of the teachers were arrested in the fracas as well. We saw police lobbying tear gas to disperse some of those teachers who had stormed the TSC offices after their interdiction as well. And of course, the teachers who were among those who were interdicted are still demanding for transfers from northeastern Kenya and are refusing to return to work to their workstations in the region over that issue of insecurity and the concerns surrounding the same. TSC has been on the spot for interdicting the teachers. Let's hear what they're saying.
Some teachers have already received, others have not received. So we wanted to go and check from the TSC, why are they giving letters discriminatively? And we know that they have already written those particular letters. Some teachers have also received 2 interdiction letters.
Mwajiri wetu ambaye ni TSC wanatumia idara ya polisi ili kutunyanyasa. Tunapozungumza sasa hivi kuna walimu wapatao kama 10 hivi ambao wamekamatwa muda kama masaa mawili yaliyopita, wako katika kituo cha polisi cha Capitol Hill.
All right, so that just gives us a glimpse of really what the situation looks like. And to introduce my panelists once again this morning, Julius Korir, National Vice Chair of KUPPET. Also joining us this morning in studio, Peter Amunga, Education Researcher at KEWOTA, also a teacher. And also Mohammed Abdinur, former teacher and humanitarian as well as a development consultant. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. I'm going to begin with you, Bwana Julius. Just give us a sense of really what the situation looks like right now. We're seeing these teachers who say they do not want to go back to those particular areas in the country because of insecurity. Just paint for us a picture of where the problem really lies.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this morning show. I want to say I'm Julius Korir. I'm the National Vice Chair of KUPPET. And I want to say that the issue of Northeastern teachers, these non-locals who are teaching there, has become a perennial problem because this thing has come from even 2014. There was such a thing, and we even demonstrated. We assisted this teacher and demonstrated to Parliament. We even went to TSC to go and demonstrate. And thank God that that time, the Teacher Service Commission was able to transfer all those teachers to different parts of this country. The issue of Northeastern is very touching. Yes, there is what we call the right to education for any child in this country. The Constitution is there for them. So, according to me, it is very, very bad and shocking that the students of Northeastern are suffering. And it is not because of these issues of non-local teachers. It is because of the treatment these teachers get when they are in those northern part, the insecurity, the discrimination of the religion, even the infrastructure. As I speak, I know there were some teachers who were employed the other day and they were posted, the primary teachers, and even there were teachers from secondary school who were taken to junior secondary. But the problem is that, they were taken very far from even the urban areas. So they suffered. So that is why these teachers are crying, and they came to Nairobi. Most of them have not returned. We are aware they were interdicted. And even when they went to demonstrate outside the Teacher Service Commission, the headquarters, they were arrested. 10 of them were arrested and they were taken to Capitol Hill. According to me, I see it's unfair to arrest teachers. After all, in this constitution, there is right for picketing. So as a union, I think we are going to stand with those teachers. We have even started to, we are engaging on legal issues. We may represent those teachers in court so that we make sure that they are returned to teach. That is what I can say. But according to me, it's very unfair.
All right, so
for those teachers to be arrested.
You say this is quite unfair.
Yes.
Let me bring in Mohammed Abdinur, who's also joining us virtually in Mombasa. Very good morning to you as well. So you've had about the situation. Of course, this is not the first time we've had about this particular, issue of teachers really calling, and non-local teachers to be specific, calling for transfer from areas, especially from the northeastern part of the country. Just give us an idea, a sense of what this really looks like for education and learners from that part of the country.
Thank you so much, Zainab. First, I'm a little bit surprised with what the Kenya National Union of Teachers representatives just said in terms of treatment of teachers, which is actually very, very far from the truth. We should not mix politics with very fundamental right issues. He has rightly said in his remarks that education, according to the Basic Education Act 2013, every child in this country has a right to free and compulsory education. Teachers in northern Kenya have heeded that call and have taken their children to school, but the teachers are not there. And surprisingly, the teachers are there when they are serving as board of management teachers or PTA teachers. They are there when they are looking for jobs. They serve in these schools for 3 to 4 years waiting for employment. The moment a TSC letter of appointment lands in their hand, the vicious cycle that has continued for the last close to 7-8 years comes back again. So basically, as leadership of Northern Kenya, we are saying that this is an employment bill, a strategy and a tactic well devised by people who are job seekers to go to Northern Kenya, and once they secure employment, with the slightest security incident, then come at TSC headquarters in Upper Hill. For once, what the Teacher Service Commission has done is commendable, because we cannot allow part of this country to be ungovernable. We cannot allow citizens and children of this country to be victimized, yet the security organs have the primary responsibility to provide security to every citizen. As we speak, in the last 7-8 years, this has been the trend. This has created a vacuum, and every other time Teacher Service Commission has to look for replacements. Surprisingly, Zainab and the fellow panelists, this only happens again in third term, when children are supposed to sit for exams. We seriously see this as a sabotage to the national government's efforts to provide education, and a sabotage and a backstab on the people of northern Kenya, who have recovered from many years of systematic and deliberate marginalization by subsequent regimes. And only now people have woken up, and now we see there are these teachers who, once they secure TSC employment, they now come in TSC headquarters.
But
Kenya National Union of Teachers and everyone else must really look at this from a fundamental right issue as opposed to union mentality.
Okay, just to correct you there a little bit, so we do have, Julius Korir is actually representing the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, right? That's KUPPET. And just so we don't have a representative from NAT here, but I know Peter used to be at NAT, so you can be able to give us perspective from that end. Yes. Peter, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come back and respond to some of those issues. And of course, we'd like to also hear from Abdinur as well in terms of the issue of saying there's certainly much bigger conversation when it comes to why teachers really are trying to move away, and is it a question of sabotage really? We'll come back to that. Let's take a quick break. We're going to be back. The hashtag, as always, is MLiveNTV at NTV Kenya. At Zainab Ismail, talk to us, and we'll be sampling some of your feedback.
What's your relationship with pain? What's your relationship with change? What is your relationship with finances? Do you get knocked out or do you go with the punches?
Kitovu cha vizazi ni baba mzazi. Unafaa kuzingatia nini kabla hujalitia guu lako ndani?
Join us for the third edition of Man Cave.
Tuchambue, tutadavue nyama na mdahalo wake. Maswala ya wanaume peupe.
And this time, we have an amazing after party session from 7 p.m. till midnight. And we'll have great music, great food, and also fireside chats. And for you guys who want to spend the night over, well, definitely, we have the plan for you.
Tarehe 28 mwezi wa Oktoba mwaka 2023. Ungana nasi hapa Ol Tepes Picnic Site kwa sherehe bab kubwa.
When men meet, change happens.
I see you trying to be an OG like me, chasing dreams, pulling more schemes for wealth. But the best thing is
seems nice and bright and everything feels alright. I went to school without a fool, trying to pick a fight. I was loped out, crisscross shirts, and now I feel you know you got the hammer. You know you got.
For the best of the 2000s, tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 12 midnight.
So live your life.
Rhythm and flow.
Taking you back in the day.
Nation FM.
Romelu Lukaku has had a fascinating club career. 2 spells at Chelsea, 2 spells at Inter Milan, and a 2-year stint with Manchester United. After returning to Stamford Bridge in the summer, Lukaku has found a new lease of life at Roma, notwithstanding a turbulent transfer saga.
Win a 3-bedroom house in Nanyuki sitting on a 1/4 acre or a 30k weekly shopping voucher or a monthly plot. For every 100k you spend buying or paying for your plot, you earn 1 entry to the draw. The more you invest, the more entries you get. Bamba Nyumba na AMG.
This week we focus on seeds. Just which is which? Hybrid
or saved seeds from the last season?
We know when it comes to using hybrid seed, then it reaches a point the vigor goes down. The production keeps on going down. It's not like the traditional seed that you'll find you're able to more or less maintain the same production, or if it goes down, it's by a very insignificant level.
Farmers will use their own harvested seed without any form of treatment. And the risk is that it may suffer problems during germination.
The formal seed, through breeding and all that, it is also adaptable to climate change, for example. Right now, you cannot predict how the weather will be tomorrow. You plant today, it doesn't rain. So you find that informal seed is also susceptible to weather vagaries.
You do your best out there, let us do our best in here with the disinfecting power of Jake. Because Jake cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Tune in to NTV every weekend at 9 AM for Kids Adventures, the ultimate cartoon extravaganza. Don't miss the laughter, fun and magic.
Selfish, 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 selfish.
Selfish, 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 selfish. Hey.
And it's not just about entertainment, it's also about teaching valuable life lessons.
Let's practice sneezing into your elbow. Achoo! Yay! You did it!
I'm going to show you how to decorate a bottle using glitters.
Let's go.
All holders are notified to report and surrender unclaimed financial assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority (UFAA) on or before November 1st, 2023. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started.
All right, welcome back to the program. You're watching AM Live as we take a look at the issue of education, especially in the northern part of the country. This coming in light of the Teacher Service Commission interdicting a couple of, actually not a couple, more than 100 teachers who have requested a transfer from some areas in the northeastern part of the country. And of course, this is due to largely insecurity in that part of the country. Well, Peter, so that's the situation we've had from the teachers. Some say it's unfair, but you have leaders from that part of the country saying it is also unfair on the teachers' side to seek for transfers because their learners, their children are also being disadvantaged in this whole situation. So where does the balance lie?
Yes, thank you very much for having me in the studio today. My name is Peter Amunga. I'm a researcher at the Kenya Women Teachers Association. And during our time, I worked at the NAT headquarters. We did actually a whole research on the problem in the north, the problem of teachers and what really happens in the north. And we gave our recommendations as a union and as researchers. And in a very widely accepted speech, we told Kenyans that, it's true that there's a problem in the north. But when there's a problem, you don't run away from problems. You face them and overcome them. You look for solutions. And the solution that first came out was that before a teacher reports to the northern part of the country, this teacher needs to be properly inducted, needs to be, given proper orientation because the culture sometimes, if you are a teacher from the southern part of Kenya and you are going to the northern part of Kenya, you need to know how the culture of the area. It is basic that any place, anywhere you work in the world, the first thing you go through is orientation. And this is one area the Teacher Service Commission has really failed. And even our unions are not addressing this. That in government, any time we see a person posted from government, there's a school we call Kenya School of Government. You go there to be trained, to be taught on what to expect where you're going to be posted. Now, teachers posted in the northern need to be oriented properly. Maybe the way of dressing, maybe the way they talk there, maybe the way they carry themselves. They may not be able to carry themselves the way they carry themselves down Kenya. Now, another thing that we also discovered is that it is true that the Teacher Service Commission, Article I think 83 and 82 of the Teacher Service Commission Act says clearly that a teacher can be posted to any part of this country. You know, you have, as a teacher, the moment you enroll yourself at Teacher Service Commission and you are posted, you can be posted anywhere. So it is when you sign the letter that I can be posted, and when these teachers report, as the panelists from Mombasa has just said, when these teachers report in, say, a place like, say, Mandera, they sign on the dotted line that I'll be in this place for 3 years or for 5 years before I seek any transfer. It is true when an insecurity happens and one of them, for example, has a problem or loses life, the entire lot comes down to Nairobi and says, we have been attacked, we don't want to stay there anymore, can you give us transfers back to our places? Now, the Teacher Service Commission is found in between a hard place and a rock, because you have employed these people to teach those children there, and as Julius Korir, the KUPPET chair, says, these children have a right to education. The children in the north have a right to a teacher. So you cannot deny them a teacher. And the teacher comes down to Nairobi and is on the streets, is at the Teacher Service Commission headquarters, and is demanding to be transferred. So who takes over his role or her role back in the northern part of Kenya?
But then what happens to the legitimacy of the concerns raised by the teachers as well when it comes to their own security? Because it's clear that we have seen, in the reports that you've gotten from those parts of the country, the teachers have also been targeted by the Al-Shabaab as well. True.
And now what happens, and even KUPPET one time, in fact I think it was Julius Korir during one of the rallies said, equip teachers even with guns, equip teachers with, let teachers in the northern Kenya have enough security. You see, at the end of the day, the problem again comes back to the government. When you post a teacher or a doctor, we have had Cuban doctors working in Mandera, people from another country, not just even Kenyan country. So when these people come to work, say, in Mandera, what are the security, agencies in Mandera, in Garissa, in all these places in Lagdera? What are the security forces, agencies in these areas doing about the safety of a teacher? And I tend to think that is where now the northern Kenya leaders fail us. And I think this is where I will maybe nail it, that the problem again in the north is also the leadership in the north. Many of the people in the north who are very wonderful people, they have not invested properly in education structures. You actually go to the north and you discover schools have no teachers' houses, have no security, have almost nothing. That is why when this quota system whereby we have got children who can come, we have national schools in this country. And you discover that when you look at the national schools, there is no national school right now actively operating in the northern Kenya. Why? It's because the leaders of the northern part of this country have failed in terms of putting up infrastructure and guidelines on how to run their schools in the north. If there are schools who are properly run in the north, if the schools had gates, fences, security, nobody will be complaining. If the boarding facilities in schools in the northern Kenya were doing well, we will not be complaining, we will not be where we are today. We are where we are today. And you saw leaders from Kiambu, where we have so many national schools, complaining that leaders in northern Kenya wanadandia, we use some word on the street called kudandia. They will want to bring their children to learn in the schools in this side of the country because they have not invested in schools in their side of the country. So
is it lack of investment, or is it a case of, a long time marginalization of that part of the country? And especially when it comes to education.
I'm sure Korir will say something about it, but what I can say here is leadership is not just about, marginalization, especially education. Education is as old as almost Islam and Christianity. So we can't start talking about marginalization. Where have most of the people who are in the northern part are Muslims? What have they done? Even what does the religion there? Prophet talk about education. Education is not something that came the other day. It is something that has been with us. What are the structures as culture in the northern? What are the structures of the religion in northern Kenya in terms of education? What do they say about education?
But what
the day they get their philosophy right, the day the people in the northern Kenya get their philosophy right on education, most of these problems we are having about insecurities and lack of structures in education and causing this problem we are having today will not be there. That's why Korir is saying, can they train their teachers? Why don't we have teachers training colleges in Mandera, for example? Why all these years after independence we want to say we are marginalized? I don't think that excuse is good anymore.
We'll hear from Abdinur on that, but let me get to Julius as well. Yes. So you've heard about the concerns that have also been raised by the other panelists saying, yes, the teachers should be more aware and really more sacrificial to really what is happening and just be able to understand the situation of the learners as well. Yeah. But then there are also still those very legitimate concerns when it comes to their own security.
Thank you very much. I want to agree with my fellow panelist, Bwana Munga, about the insecurity. Teachers have suffered because of insecurity. I don't want to go so much about it. But one way on how to solve the issue of insecurity is to provide security to these teachers. Number two, there are teachers who are far-flung. Why don't they bring near urban centers? Number three, for these teachers, what is their motivation? And I want to call upon the Teachers Service Commission. For such teachers who are teaching such areas, they should be given even risk allowance. They should be given even some hardship that is a bit higher so that it can attract teachers to go there.
There is already hardship allowance.
It is there, but it is not enough. We want them to be given risk allowance because teachers are dying like dogs, are attacked by Al-Shabaab. Even there are some teachers who are killed even inside the police station. So surely, how is that security? Another thing I want to fault the government. Why we are having this marginalization is because those areas were left. The roads were not there. If the government can improve on infrastructure, good roads, water, electricity, we'll have less of this. Yes, I agree. And I want to tell my brother, he should not just attack us, attack the union. We have tried our best. We have not said that these teachers should be removed immediately. But if there is a concern on security, surely you cannot force such a teacher to go back. And I want to call upon the leaders of Northeastern, the way among us said, to address this issue once and for all. Personally, I feel for those children in Northeastern, not because these teachers don't want to teach those children. It is because of the leaders. They have not come together. They have not come with way forward on how they are going to assist the teachers who are teaching there. Another issue is that, please, it is high time they start developing their own in Northeastern. Problem in Northeastern, what happened? These teachers, they finish university, they go and teach for 2 years, and then you see they have gone to NGOs. That's the problem. So they have to address that.
So are you saying, so is the issue a political issue?
Yes.
A leadership issue?
Yes.
An education issue?
Yes.
Or a security issue?
All of them.
All of them.
Actually, I can just add something there that it is political in terms of how come, as our panelists from Mombasa said, it happens at certain times of the seasons of the year. Maybe exam season, sometimes during the political times. How come the leaders, also the political leaders in those areas, when will you hear them talk about it? What time, when will you ever, like there's a time, Korir and myself have attended a funeral of a teacher who was shot during the Mandera 2014. We attended several funerals of teachers who were shot by Al-Shabaab in a bus, and we did not see even one leader from northern Kenya come down this side to condole or to say something or to condemn, or at the end of the day, the politics normally shifts to Naonewa. There is marginalization. Then, and again, why it is also an educational issue, of course, is that those children are now not learning. It's exam time right now. If you are Teacher Service Commission and exams are starting the next 1 week, national exams, and teachers are not in class, people you are paying salary, there will be a problem here. It's an education issue, and it's a humanitarian issue. It's an issue that also requires that agencies like the UN come in very strongly and ask questions. That's why we're having a conference today at KICD Education International. That conference is also addressing insecurity. It's not only Kenya. By the way, this problem of insecurity in schools is not just a Kenyan problem. It's a global problem. You can imagine what's happening right now in Syria. I mean, in Palestine. It was
a problem in Uganda.
In Uganda, we have had this similar problem. It's a problem that is global. The issue is we must come up with solutions. It starts with leadership. Good leadership will ensure that the problem we're having in northern Kenya is solved once and for all.
All right. Abdi Nur, if you're still with us, so you've had all the perspectives from the other panelists. Some of your responses to the issues raised as well?
Yeah. First, thank you, Zainab, and my colleague panelists. There are a few things that we need to debunk and also understand a little bit of the background. First, teachers are not just posted. Teachers apply for a job. Unless in the past, whenever there is a vacancy, TSC will put up an advert. Priority will always be given to those teachers who are already in their schools, what we call Board of Management teachers. I want to tell my brothers, no teacher travels from Nandi to Wajir directly and then is employed the following day. No. A number of these teachers have served as BOM teachers in these schools for 4, 3, 5 years. Let's be honest about it. They have their spouses working in the Ministry of Health. They have their spouses doing some informal employment. The problem arises, and as a researcher, Amuga, please dig into this. The problem arises the moment someone gets a TSC employment. As a matter of fact, I'm only visiting Mombasa, but I come from Wajir and Mandera. I know of someone who has been asking for a transfer, but the wife works in Bute. I know of a lady who works in El Wak, but the husband who is in Ministry of Health is comfortable working there. I know of someone whose wife does business in Wajir, but the husband is asking for a transfer. The issue is, this has become like a revolving issue. Job creation, people are employed and they want to leave. If you ask their spouses, they want to stay there and they're doing business there. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can mention names. So the issue of employment, I think, needs to be addressed like that. Number 2, Zainab, surprisingly, all the private schools in northern Kenya have teachers who are non-locals. The non-local teachers who are non-local in quotes, I will say, I don't want to use that word like that. The non-local teachers or teachers from other parts of the country who are in private schools have no issue. They serve diligently, they have no insecurity issue. I was in Mandera about 2 weeks ago. The border town of Kulahawa, which is on the Somalia side, has a number of teachers from other parts of the country. In fact, not even in Kenya. The border on the other side. I have traveled widely in many cities in Somalia, southwest Kismayo, Puntland. You will find that they are Kenyan teachers. The fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves is if the ones in private schools are comfortable, if the ones who are Board of Management teachers are comfortable, if the ones who are working across the border are okay, what is this issue with the moment someone acquires TSC number or TSC appointment, then you want to leave? This is why I will call that this is not in good faith. It is actually in very, very bad faith. It borders on fraudsters. People who get employment, pick the employer, go for interviews, get appointment, lock positions, lock out other people who have been appointed in those positions. And the moment they stay then with the slightest insecurity incidents, we have a huge force of human capital in all other sectors in these counties who never complain. Minister of Health. I like what one of the brothers said. The issue is global, the issue is continental. We need to find homegrown solutions. We need to address these solutions. I agree there are a number of issues that we have made in terms of recommendations, and perhaps we get there. But as a matter of fact, number one, we are saying that we are in the process of recruiting local teachers, encouraging the locals to go and join teaching colleges. We have asked for affirmative action so that some of these young graduates or young school leavers who perhaps have issues with grades can very easily be considered. But this is something that the ministry has not accepted. But now we are working on affirmative action to see whether this will be possible. Recommendation number 2 then will be what you say, for the few teachers from other regions who feel that perhaps don't have the necessary support, provide the support. And if you speak to any of the principals from Northern Kenya, they will tell you that preferential treatment actually is given to teachers from other. In fact, the community from that part of the country are very, very hospitable. You can talk to the people who are in the informal sector. In fact, if you go to Garissa this morning, there are more than 3,000 people who cross the bridge to go and work on informal employments on the other side of Garissa. And you know what they say in the morning? We are going to Dubai, meaning Dubai. When they leave Mwingi and Kitui and other parts of the country and they are going to Northern Kenya, that's called hardship. For them, it's what they refer to as Dubai. On the solutions, I think, we also need to deploy technology. In the absence of a teacher, we can fill in the gaps. This government has been elected on a platform of wanting to make sure that service reach every part of the country. We need to deploy technology in these schools so that the schools that have no adequate teachers can also be supported.
But let me
we are saying that why can the government and the ministry invoke the Intergovernmental Act so that some of the functions of the Ministry of Education in these regions can be transferred to the county governments so that local solutions can be found.
When you talk
why can some functions of security, for example, be transferred to the county governments in that region, and we can invoke the Intergovernmental Act so that some of these functions can be transferred. The issue is we want to do things the same way and we expect results. That cannot happen. There is no way one part of this country can lag behind, and we are saying that we want to develop as a whole. The child in Nandi is equally as important as the child in Moyale and the child in Mandera and the child in far-flung part of Lamu. And therefore we must be a country that cares for each other.
But
so that
Peter had mentioned the issue of perhaps leadership and lack of political goodwill by the elected leaders in some of those areas. Do you agree that some of those leaders that really are supposed to hold the interest of their own people have dropped the ball when it comes to the issue of education, specifically for these young learners? I know that just the other day, I think it was last month, where you had the Garissa governor talking about that locals in the region have refused to enroll for teacher training courses, even after his administration pledged to give scholarships to students to pursue these courses, and even affirmative action to ensure that they sort of find that what you talked about, homegrown solutions.
I mean, I have just come back from Mandera, where the Minister for Education, C.S. Machogu, launched a task force report to look at the status of education in Mandera. What the governor of Mandera is doing is has appointed a task force, and I served in that task force for the last 5-6 months, is to make recommendations for homegrown solutions. And as we speak, some of the colleges, and the one in Mandera is the one I can speak authoritatively because we visited there. We have about 700 students who have enrolled. I agree with one of the speakers, yes, mentorship is an issue, career guidance is an issue. Encouraging and visiting these schools when they are in Form 4 so that we can not only tell the students to go and enroll in teaching colleges so that they can fill gaps, but showing them what is the value in being a teacher is important. I know perhaps we have not done what needs to be done as leaders, but there are quite efforts that have been made. You remember a few years ago there's been quite some discussions in Nairobi and in the region with the minister then, CS Ambassador Amina, to find what kind of affirmative actions can be found. And the union at the time was also very supportive, just like they're doing now. But again, that did not work. I think basically we are not speaking the same language, we are putting things in different directions. But I can assure you that there's a lot of efforts that are going on at the county level.
All right.
But then there are certain limitations when it comes to framework that we need to work on.
All right. Yes, Julius.
Yes, I wanted to. Yes, I've heard about what my fellow panelist is talking about, but I want to say, yes, these teachers from the others, from these the non-locals, they go to Mandera, some go to Wajir, some go to Garissa. But let me tell you, it's not their wish to run away from there. You cannot say that because they are looking for employment. I know even of some teachers who have said, I better go home because of insecurity. So
it's not necessarily an issue of saying, look, I just need to secure employment and then seek for transfer to other areas.
That's a wrong notion. And Pia, I want to correct him. You cannot call teachers fraudsters. It's impossible. You should apologize because of that term. You cannot talk teachers fraudsters.
Excuse me.
You cannot. Let me. I gave you time. I gave you time.
Okay. No, just a minute. Just a minute. Please.
Just very quickly.
Yes. I am a professional. I'm not a politician, so I don't talk politics.
Professional.
The fact of the matter is that these teachers, if you do some statistics today, you will find that they're actually somewhere in the waiting list who are serving as board of management, and they're still willing to serve in those positions.
All right.
Those teachers are not doing that in good faith. I have no apologies to call them fraudsters.
I have to
that's what they are.
All right, Abdinur, let's hear from Julius now. Right.
He was talking about he has people who are working, the locals who are working in Ministry of Health. Why do you get the people who are working in Ministry of Health comfortable if even infrastructure? You see the hospitals, they are good houses and they are what? Hi, what about private school? Private schools, they have infrastructure. But what about public primary? It's in pathetic state. So you cannot use that as a measure to generalize everything.
I support what he's saying in this way. I agree with both of them in one way or another. But I agree that actually the infrastructure in public schools in the northern part of this country are horrible. And you see, that's one thing that Abdinur, the panelist, is avoiding to talk about. He is not talking about the infrastructure. Education is made up of three things. Quality teachers. You must have quality teachers. Quality environment. You cannot have quality education without quality environment. Environment here I talk about the classrooms, the sanitation, and all these things that go through, that cause to bring about good results. And then finally, it is quality tools. The schools, the desks, the fence, all these things count when you talk about education. In northern Kenya, public schools, and I don't think we need to belabor so much on that. But I think this is the point. I've just seen the CEO of K-Water is called Benta, has just sent me, Benta Opande just sends me a text, says, TSC has a strong policy of non-transfer of teachers in third term. Now, we are in third term. In third term, Bwana Korir will agree with me.
Yes.
We have exams in all schools, national exams. Now, usually during such a time, you can't want to even interdict or cause problems because the issue is these teachers are also supposed to supervise exams. These teachers we have seen out there, we needed somebody, a teachers service commission, to listen to what they're talking about, maybe give them some kind of, explain to them what needs to be done, give them a hearing, give them some security for the time being, so that we make sure that the exams run properly in northern Kenya. If these teachers are all interdicted, who is going to supervise exams in northern Kenya? Who is going to invigilate these exams? And that's when you see issues come up again after exams, that exams were stolen. There was exam cheating. These things all work in one way or another towards the same point. And I want to add this point, which our brother from who is in Mombasa needs to really get this very clearly. Everybody, most people will need a job. And when you are looking for a job, you will be desperate in many ways. But once you get the job, there are things that go with that job. Security is one. I saw Kupet run a program called Stop Teachers' Lives Matter. There was a hashtag, Teachers' Lives Matter. Leave alone that one of Black Lives Matter. Teachers' Lives Matter. And that is what our brother in Mombasa is not really addressing. Does the life of a teacher, is it worth it? Can a teacher's life, for example, if a teacher is killed in a police station, or a teacher is killed in the line of duty, what happens from there? What should be done? And that is why I think these teachers come to Nairobi and camp here. That one life is very important. I don't think even education is as much important as the life of a teacher. So for me, from where I'm seated as a researcher, I must say that it is something that the government needs to think about. Lives, education, infrastructure, tools, and the leadership in Northern Kenya must just wake up. Why do we have, you cannot keep on saying that, we are looking on the central government. Why do we have very good private schools, say, for example, in Mombasa, in Nairobi, we have in Kisumu? Why are there no quality schools in Northern Kenya? What happened to Karapatula High School, a national school? What happened to those kind of schools? In Northern Kenya, the buck stops at the leaders, at the governors. We have the Minister for Defense coming from Northern Kenya. My brother, Duale, I've been with him on this studio when he was still, a member of parliament. And this question of Northern Kenya teachers, we discussed it here with Duale. And the question I asked to Mr. Duale is, what security, what apparatus have you put in place to protect your teachers in Northern Kenya? When the Garissa University incident happened and we lost students, what other measures, extra measures can we see when we go to Garissa University? I want to tell you almost none. I don't see the CCTV cameras we talked about. I don't see the military camp or anybody protecting that university at Garissa. So and that is where the problem is.
Basically, Peter, it goes back to the issue of security. It all goes back to the issue of security, which falls under the national government, right?
Correct. And one of the main leaders in national security, in fact, 5 major leaders of national security in this country come from Northern Kenya. Go to Amin in DCI. Go to Duale. Go to Haji now, who has been at NSIS. All that, these people come from Garissa, Mandera, and I am asking them, and I'm daring them on this TV, what have you done for the people of Northern Kenya to ensure that their children are able to learn? You have occupied very good offices in this country. What are you doing to ensure that teachers are safe and schools are safe?
All right, Peter, we'll take a break on that particular point. This is MLive NTV. Talk to us. We'll take that short break. We're going to be back in a short while. Stay with us.
Karibuni, hii ndio base ya the best local entertainment. Baby,
tumefungulia Magic. Starting from the 7th of October, Maisha Magic Plus will be on DSTV Access and GoTV Plus.
With Glovo, you've got the city at your fingertips. Hanging out na mnataka kuku fry ama nyama choma customized na ugali sosa? Order Glovo. Now enjoy. Time to shower and running out of soap? Order Glovo. Now uanze siku fresh. Ama simply treat family nzima with a sweet surprise. Delicious. With Glovo, unaweza track order yako minute by minute. Download Glovo, order anything you want and receive it in minutes.
To get It's Finished by Njoki Munyi, dial star 812 star 801 hash.
Skiza, Nan Nation.
So what I like about Man Cave is the opportunity that men have been given. Through this platform, they are able to discuss and share amongst themselves what really goes around their lives. One person may think that they're going through something worse, but when you sit down and hear what other men are going through, you're able to really understand what what is affecting you is really nothing. And Man Cave has done that very well. All through from Man Cave 1, Man Cave 2, and the 3rd edition, which is coming on the 28th of October 2023, which will be hosted at Olol Tepes in Kiseria. It's a man's affair. You're all welcome.
All holders are notified to report and surrender unclaimed financial assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFAA, on or before November 1st, 2023. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started.
All right, welcome back to the program. You're watching M Live NTV as we converse around the issue of learning in the northern part of the country, and of course the issue of insecurity that has now forced teachers to seek for transfers from the schools within that part of the country, and of course that has now led to interdiction of these teachers by the employer, that's the Teacher Service Commission. But as we have this conversation, before I get back to Abdinur, who is in Mombasa, just to give us a sense of really what the fate of the interdicted teachers currently stand, Julius, give us an idea of what is happening right now to those teachers who've now been interdicted by TSC. And this basically is just a suspension. It's not it's not a termination of their contract.
Yes, according to what we have seen and we have even heard, and we have even gone to TSC, is that teachers were told to report to the schools in northern Kenya, but the teachers refused, and they really requested that they needed to be transferred.
So this began at the beginning of the third term?
Yes.
So once the third term
began at the end of the second term, that's when issues started.
Right.
And it has spread. And it came because there are some teachers who were killed. So that brought a lot of tension. And these teachers now had to camp now at the Teacher Service Commission requesting to be given letters of transfer. But this thing has been there for 1 month. So TSC refused. And when they refused, these teachers went and demonstrated outside. And that is why some of these teachers were arrested. And that is why I was saying there is a way we could talk. In fact, we have occasioned a meeting with the Teacher Service Commission to see if they can have a good face, a human face to these teachers who have been interdicted. So I think that is it. But according to me, it is very unfair. They should have listened to these teachers, and they should not even have arrested, because there is right of picketing. That is according to me.
But just what on it, what happens normally after a teacher has been interdicted is once you are interdicted, you are not supposed to go to your place of work. You wait for a disciplinary committee meeting, hearing. So these teachers are going to be waiting to be called for a disciplinary committee hearing in their respective maybe counties or maybe here in Nairobi.
This is to make their defense statement.
Yes, they have to make a defense statement.
Right.
It's during the defense statement that they'll talk about why they were not at their place of work, why they came to Nairobi. They'll have to defend themselves. Now, normally you're not allowed to have a lawyer or, just you and the commissioners. And then after that, they wait again for the response from the employer. Most times, again, they'll be on no pay. If it's desertion, as a teacher, if you deserted duty, like now what they are being accused about is desertion of duty. When you are deserted, you are considered as if you are not there, you're not working. So what's happened is that they'll not get salary for the time they'll be out, waiting for the hearing. Sometimes the hearing can take 2, 3, 4 months. It's not automatic that it comes after a week. It can take even half a year. The teachers have been waiting to go to the disciplinary committee hearing for years.
So you're telling me right now, if these teachers decided to go back to their workstations, they will not be able to go back as per the TSC guidelines because of the interdiction that now stands?
Yes. Right. Now they are person non-granta. They are not acceptable in the workstations, even at Teacher Service Commission. So after the hearing, they will be posted, but most times you will not be posted at the school you are. It's a policy at Teacher Service Commission that once your hearing is over, and if you win, if you defend yourself properly in the case, which is not 100% that you have to win, then you are reposted. You are given a discipline. Discipline is being posted to another school, maybe within the same locality, but not the similar school that you are in.
So a different school.
A different school.
Right. But, you know, Peter, I mean, this is not the first time we've seen this particular issue. And this is why there was a whole hullabaloo when it came to the issue of the delocalization policy that has now been halted by the government. Yes. But then, so even with all this, I mean, the region still feels disadvantaged. You know, back then we had the leaders from those part of, from that part of the country saying that, you know, mass transfer of teachers is really hurting the education of their own learners, you know. So then when you have 120 and more teachers pushing for transfer from schools in that region, where does this leave these learners who are almost going to go to national examinations and perform and compete with their peers?
And that's actually the unfortunate part of it, that these learners have to pay a very heavy price. That's why results in the northern part of Kenya, national results for the last so many years, has been pathetic. The children there have been failing exams. The E is at Form 4 L level. The less than 100 marks in those areas are actually pathetic. But again, the government comes in and comes up with something called affirmative action, whereby learners from those areas, even when they're joining college or they're joining university, their cut-off marks or cut-off points are always put lower than the rest of the country. A child in Nairobi, for example, who wants to go to Alliance Boys High School or Alliance Girls High School, if you get 400 marks, you will not go. You may need to have 420, 430 if you're in Nairobi or Kisumu. But a child in Mandera, a child in northern Kenya, with 320 marks can easily make into a national school, 300 marks. So that's called affirmative action. It's one way to cushion this kind of problem. But it is not a good thing. It's not, you know, why should somebody be given this kind of affirmative action? The only solution has been, and which Kenya Kwanza, as a government when they were campaigning, talked about, is they talked about localization. They were against delocalization. The former government came up with something called delocalization. Make teachers go out of their locality, you know, remove them from where they are, take them elsewhere. That policy failed miserably. It brought a lot of problems. My friends like Korea went on the streets. They went to parliament. They went everywhere to complain about it. The new government came in with a strong policy called localization, meaning they want local teachers to teach local schools. Now, the question is, 1 year after this government took over, why are we still having delocalized teachers still teaching in Machakos, teaching in Kiambu, teachers from Nandi, teaching in Mombasa, teachers who want to go back to Kakamega are in Mandera? Why is the policy called localization not working? And that is why now, I personally, as a researcher, I have a problem with my unions like NAT and KUPPET. Because if they need to hold the government to account, that as a government, you told us you want localization to be in schools, why are we still having teachers in northern Kenya who don't want to be there? And yet it is a policy. So the only way, and this talk I'm giving, as you put it, started way back in 2014. 2014 was the time we had the Mandera bus attack. And Abdinur will agree with me. From 2014 up to today, how many schools have the county government of Mandera put up? How many teachers training colleges have been put up in Wajir? How many teachers so far can they be accountable and tell us how many they have trained in the last 10 years? So, and that is where the problem begins, and I keep going back there, because we can only solve the problem of children suffering marginalization in northern Kenya, starting with the leaders. We can't have the leaders of northern Kenya bring their children to learn in Nairobi, learn wherever, the main leaders, and they leave the people who elected them without teachers back at home. You leaders in Mandera, you leaders in Garissa, take control. Take control. Bargain with the government. Hold the government accountable. Ask the government why the localization program that you promised the electorates and Kenyans, why is it not working in northern Kenya?
All right, maybe Abdinur can be able to tell us why that perhaps is still a big challenge. Abdinur? We cannot be able to hear him. I don't know if he's speaking. John?
Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you.
No, I was saying just to state a bit of facts. Number one, if you don't know, 80% of the teachers who are in TSC headquarters in Nairobi have gone back. So there is only a minority who are the ones who visited TSC and now have been interdicted. So the 80% are back to their schools because the strategy has not worked. Number two, our worry is the statement of the fact that teachers someone mentioned that teachers don't want to work. Actually, the teachers travel all the way, serve as BOM teachers for 3-4 years and get employment. Let's be clear with that fact. It's not that they don't want to work. It's the policy now is that TSC will advertise and you apply and you are employed. So it's not TSC forcing on anyone's prop to go and work in certain regions. It is a person who travels to the county, works as a BOM teacher and is employed. So that also we need to state that fact. Number three, insecurity affects everyone. It's not only the teachers. If someone mentioned the Wargadudu incident, if you remember, that teacher was killed with 2 other police officers in a police station. And the 2 police officers, one of them was a local. It tells you that these guys don't discriminate. They kill everyone. You remember the teacher who was killed in an attempt to defend his fellow teacher in Wargadudu in Mandera also.
Yes.
So the local community sacrificed so much to embrace integration. We don't want these aspects of us versus them. Once we give that opportunity to the enemy of peace, then we will have accepted the status quo, and basically we are letting part of this country to be ungovernable, which I know the government of the day and any other government has never allowed, and therefore we should not also create that kind of an impression. It is the teachers who go and seek employment, and that's how they are employed. I also want to tell you, Zainab, and I repeat, there are a number of professionals. I know of someone who was working in a remote village in Mandera since 1991. The person serves as a medical person and has been transferred a number of times and does not want to go. So everyone else who is in a different profession is comfortable working in northern Kenya. The police officer is comfortable, the house help is comfortable, the plumber is comfortable, the electrician is comfortable, the driver is comfortable, the police officer is comfortable. What is this issue with teachers?
But Abdinur, you cannot be blind. We can't still not be blind to the fact that there is a huge challenge when it comes to security of everyone, the whole community in those areas. So then you are saying it's only the teachers who are making noise, but we've seen
this insecurity has not been consistent all through. It has been sporadic. You remember, January to March it picked up, and then now there's quite some intervention in the region. So insecurity affects everyone, including the learner, including the police officer, including the business person. You will seldom hear anyone else talk about transfer. Basically, TSC is the highest employer. The frequency of employment of teachers because of the need and the gaps that are created by teachers who ask for transfer is huge, and basically it is a referral. This one comes, ask for transfer, another one comes, ask for transfer. We are telling our brothers, these teachers, that they have served in those schools as BOM teachers. Oh. They know how the head teachers treat them. They know how the local community treat them. It's very unfair to go to the media and peddle falsehoods and peddle propaganda and peddle things that are not there. I will invite any of these people who are in the panel and anyone else to travel to Garissa or Mandera and see in the interior. You will find a number of people who are also teachers who are working in those areas. This is the minority that's trying to create this kind of a situation. I will want to agree, yes, we have not done sufficient interventions at the local level as the leadership. We haven't done enough. We haven't done enough investments in education, because this should have been the game changer. And this is why I'm saying that let's agree that certain frameworks can be flexible. Let us flex the Intergovernmental Act so that a few functions of security and a few functions of education can also be involved, so that the governors who have the resources will have the ability to make sure that some of these things are worked at the county level and not in Harambee House in Nairobi. This is how things will work.
Yes.
Julius.
I wanted to say that I want to agree on some issues, but now what we have to do is not to lament. In the book of the Bible, we need to move from the book of lamentation and we go to the book of Revelation. I don't want somebody to lament throughout. When we are here as leaders and researchers, our work is to give way forward. How are we going to assist the children of Northeastern? How are we going to assist these teachers who are in Northeastern? How are they going to be given security? How are they going to be motivated to remain in those places? Number two, I want to say this. Yes, as a national leader, even when Amunga was in NAT, we travel all over the country. I'm a national leader. We have a branch in Garissa. We have a branch in Wajir. And even the executive secretary of Wajir, Naitwa Yusuf. You go to Mandera. So I've traveled. It is not an issue that we don't know those areas. By the way, Garissa is the best because it's like even Nairobi. Because we know that. Another thing I wanted to put clearly is that we have engaged the minister on this issue. We have engaged, even there is a time we were called by, when Amina was the minister, we went to Jogo and we tried to address the issue of these northern teachers and even affirmative action. We have even talked with Kenya Teacher Service Commission. We have talked with the leaders. So as a union, yes, I'm aware some teachers have gone back and some did not go back. That one we are aware. Our issue is to make sure these children of Northeastern are taught. But they need to be taught with enough security and all of this. So for me, I want solution now. Let's not lament, oh, people are going there because of employment. Oh, we are not sincere. But we are here to make sure the life of the teacher is important and is vital.
And
yes.
One solution, I like what the direction Julius is taking us. The solution is technology. It's right now we're moving to the technological world. We at Kenya Women Teachers Association, we are coming up with something called laptops for schools. And during our training, which Julius attended in Mombasa, the heads meeting, we presented with the Estonian government of this, Estonian government is providing full-fledged laptops with all materials inside. That is now what we need. Google, the Bill Gates Foundation and others are talking about bringing Google balloons, to provide internet. Now what we need to do is the leaders of Northern Kenya to allow infrastructure whereby internet and connectivity can be available in all these areas. So that schools can now, if I am even here in the studio here in Nairobi, I can teach maths, I can teach any other lesson from Nairobi. So we are going technological. And countries like Nigeria, that's how they're solving this problem. We had a big problem in Nigeria where we had a group that was, militant and terrorist, which was abducting the girls and the students.
Boko Haram?
Boko Haram, yes. Right. And we all remember how the Boko Haram was acting. Now, as a country, what happened, what Nigeria did, is that they immediately came up with technological advances. All these problems we are having in schools, especially even not just terrorist problems, the issue of, for example, schools burning. Last night there's a school that burnt in Kisii. We have to reach a place as a country, we must ask questions like, are boarding schools still very viable? Must we have children being kept in a boarding school throughout for 5 months or 6 months for that matter? Technology can solve these issues. We can equip our teachers and our classrooms with technological facilities so that a teacher doesn't need to be in class at that time every moment.
All right, and I think you mentioned, because Abdinur, actually, as I bring you on, you had talked about the issue of using technology as well to be able to sort of manage the situation that, you know, continues to escalate? It's been a perennial issue within that part of the country. Maybe give us ideas of what you feel can be able to be done, even in light of, you talked about the Education Cabinet Secretary who was there in Mandera. In fact, you serve as part of that task force where you were able to launch the Mandera County Education report of that task force. He talked about the issue of opening up more training institutions locally within that region, perhaps with the inculcation of technology as well. We might be able to bring about some solution to this issue, right?
I mean, we have failed our people as this country. Remember the infamous laptop projects. We have talked about these things for long. But basically what we're saying is that technology can fill the gaps. Not only when there are no teachers, but can also add flavor and value into the teaching. With the COVID, what we learned, and this is why I'm in Mombasa, and I'm able to join the discussion in the studio in Nairobi.
Right.
With COVID, what we learned is that there are many things that we can do and leverage on technology, including now what we are saying in interaction with our learners. Exchange of information by schools. You know, if you have schools in Nairobi, having like sister schools in Wajir, or if you have a teacher who is not able to deliver a lesson because of other engagements, is able to deploy technology. It's also very exciting, you know, for learners. Quite motivating when they have technology by their sides. So all these computers for schools, all these laptop projects, all these big talk that we have said, I think it's time that we need to actualize. Not only in northern Kenya, but in many parts of, all the parts of this country. I don't think internet connectivity is an issue now. You know, we have quite a good coverage of internet connectivity in this country. But I think the infrastructure is really what is lacking. This is where we need to put our money in, as opposed to just building bricks and walls in the name of buildings. There is much more that can also be done. You know, it's also a backup. You know, some prepared lessons or talks or lectures can be done so that even in the absence of a teacher, that kind of a delivery can be made.
Right.
But we still need to go back to this discussion so that we are all on the same page. My brother has mentioned about Nigeria, has mentioned about Somalia and other parts. Let us not fall into the trap. The trap of this kind of groups that cause terror and insecurity is to divide our people, is to make us to give in to their demands. And this is why our appeal was and is to these particular teachers. As people who are nationalist and patriotic Kenyans, we shouldn't let things go in that direction. And this is why I was saying the efforts and the action by Teacher Service Commission was to curtail that kind of an impression, so that we are not running away because there is an issue. And the moment we show them in that leeway, then the other teachers will follow, the other medical people will follow, the business people will follow, and we will be a divided country. This is the impression and the opportunity that we don't want to give to the groups that are causing insecurity in our region. You know, many parts, you know, we have had issues in Baringo, we have had issues in West Pokot, we have had issues in parts of Lamu and Marsabit. And this is why, you know, if we have to look at the bigger perspective, the bigger picture, what is it that we are really struggling with? But the issue of teachers seems to be more specific and more localized in northern Kenya. And this question is fundamental that we have to address it very, very objectively. I want to underline the fact that yes, we need to come with solutions that are workable, longer-term solutions that are workable. I agree with you entirely, Mr. Muga. We cannot cry over spoiled milk, spilled milk all the time. We must come up with solutions. And this discussion and the many other things that we are putting in place, make sure that we move this discussion forward. There are other stakeholders, you know, the curriculum developers, the Ministry of Education, Teacher Service Commission, the security organs, the leadership in the county, the leadership at the national level, parents, we need to look at a more broader engagement, more broader discussion, so that we don't just bring this down to individuals. This is the way we can move forward as patriotic Kenyans and as a country. So we all move in the same direction. We want to address the issues in Lamu. We want to address the issues in Baringo. We want to address the issue of unemployment. We want to address the issue of underdevelopment. We want to, you know, it's a whole other discussions that come up with. So it is not just one isolated incident in Mandera and in Wajir that we are struggling with. KUPPET and KNUT are the spokespersons of these teachers. Let us not only show them that we can speak for them when they have issues, but let's also speak for the parents of those teachers. Let's speak for the children of those teachers.
All right.
And let's speak for the community as well.
All right. Thanks, Abdinur.
Thank you.
All right. So very quickly as well, Julians, Peter, I'll just give you a minute each as you also make your final remarks. Let me begin with you, Julius.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this debate, and thank you for the panelists who have been together. I want to say that at least we are trying to have amicable solution on this issue of Northeastern teachers. And for me, for the way forward for the teachers of this country, especially those who are teaching in Northeastern and those who are non-locals who have been interdicted and those who have returned, we want to say yes. The solution, the way we have said, is number one, security. They must have security. Number two, the government must put infrastructure, right infrastructure, in those schools, and even tarmac, electricity, to make this place habitable. Number three, we have agreed that the issue of affirmative is necessary for those teachers who are in Northeastern, or even those teachers who are in who are down, even those areas you have heard about, Pokot, Baringo.
All right.
They should be affirmative. And lastly, I want to say that we need to have motivation for those teachers who are teaching there by giving them at least an extra coin, give them even risk allowance, and even I will repeat that those teachers, if this insecurity continues, let those teachers be given guns. It's better.
That's quite a radical proposal, but Peter?
Yes.
You are the one who started this radical proposal.
Yes, I started this studio actually. Another thing that I need to say is our people are very spiritual. Our country, you know, whether Buddhists, whether Muslims, whether Christians. This problem that is going on, our religious leaders need also to really take a stand on it. I urge the religious leaders, especially in the northern Kenya, to copy from their religious counterparts in the southern Kenya. Most of the good schools we talk about these sides of the country, be it the Mangus, they are Catholic schools, be it the Alliances, they are made by Presbyterians. Bunyore Girls, done by Church of God in East Africa. The churches have done a lot in terms of encouraging even the girl child education, protecting teachers, training teachers. The question is, what are our religious leaders in the northern part of Kenya? And I'm challenging them.
But does it fall under religion when it comes to issues of education, Peter?
Well, it may not fall under them, but you see, you go by the history of this country. Education has been basically been provided by the spiritual, either churches or leaderships in this country. So if we want quality education, we can't rule out the possibility of the religious leaders. They must take a stand. They must be part of this. They must run their schools. They must talk to government. They must lead the way. And, and I finished by saying, it's our country. We love our country. We love each other. Education is three things: quality tools, quality teachers, quality environment.
All right.
And it's our government to do it.
All right, thank you. Peter Amunga, education researcher at Kewota. Julius Korir, National Vice Chair of KUPPET, that's the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. And also joining us virtually this morning was Mohamed Abdinur, who's a former teacher and development consultant, and is also serving as part of, I believe it's called the Mandera, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the Mandera County Education task force, and you are part of that particular task force. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning to have this conversation. Indeed, the education of all learners across the country is paramount, and that's why we decided to have this conversation, to be able to really try and find solutions to where the problem does lie when it comes to, especially in the northern part of the country, and the insecurity that surrounds that area and how that has impacted the education sector. Well, this is where we wrap it up, but your world will be coming up shortly with Winnie Lubembe. You want to stay tuned for that. My name is Zainab Ismail. The hashtag as always is MLiveNTV. Have yourself a good morning and good day.
Benefits of ordering with Glovo. Glovo allows you to order anything you want at the comfort and convenience of your home. Craving fried chicken or pilau or pizza? Easy and simple. Order on Glovo today. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
With Glovo, you've got the city at your fingertips. Unajisikia kukula kitu different? Order Glovo. Ama treat the family with a sweet surprise. Download Glovo and get anything you want in minutes. You can now manage all your finances with one app. Link your bank cards and enjoy fast, safe and convenient transactions no matter the bank or mobile money network you're on.
What makes you think that this is a proper time to show up for work? What kind of an example do you want to set for the staff, Rodrigo?
I'm Diego, Grandpa.
Diego, you came. You don't know how glad I am to see you.
Why are you so surprised?
I thought that you liked me.
You're mistaken. I just wanted to have some fun for a while. My goodness, you really are so full of yourself. Don't tell me you thought there was something between us.
But I did. I just thought you were really into me.
What are you doing here, Rodrigo?
I invited him.
What's the idea, Natalia?
You are both to leave her alone. Natalia has lodged a restraining order against the two of you. As of now, you cannot come close to her, look for her, or accost her, or the both of you will end up in jail.
Head over heels.
Win a 3-bedroom house in Nanyuki sitting on a quarter-acre or a 30K weekly shopping voucher or a monthly plot. For every 100K you spend buying or paying for your plot, you earn 1 entry to the draw. The more you invest, the more entries you get. Bamba Nyumba na AMG.
Get ready to dive into the pearls of a generation that's shaping the future.
On this new season of Speaking of Gen Z, we uncover stories and emotions behind relationships, friendship, family, and much more.
It's not about the miles between us, it's about the connections we share.
And this is the Strings Attached edition.
Baby, come give me something,
Can we talk about situationships?
Speaking of Gen Z podcast, the Strings Attached edition. Wednesdays from 10 a.m. on Nation FM and Nation.Africa.
Welcome to Speaking of Gen Z.
Introducing the East African Entrepreneurship Conference and Expo, hosted in the heart of the Democratic Republic of Congo from October 31st to November 2nd, 2023. Proudly presented by Nation Media Group. Unleash the potential of East African entrepreneurship as you connect with visionary minds, explore untapped markets, and forge lucrative trade partnerships. Whether you're poised to conquer the vibrant business landscape of the DRC or eager to expand your footprint across East Africa, this event is your gateway to success. For comprehensive details and registration, call Joanne on 0724 661 440 or email jmasika@ke.nationmedia.com.
Rongo University Chancellor, Council, University Management Board and Senate cordially invite you to the 8th graduation ceremony for the conferment of degrees and award of diplomas and certificates by the Chancellor of Rongo University on 19th October 2023 starting at 9 a.m. at the university main campus graduation ground. The theme of graduation is Empowered as Innovators for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Follow the proceedings live on NTV and all the NTV social media platforms. Rongo University, the gold mine of knowledge and innovation.
I see you trying to be an OG like me, chasing dreams, pulling more schemes for wealth. But the best thing
is seems nice and bright and everything feels alright. I went to school without a fool, trying to pick a fight. I was loped out, crisscross shirts, and now I feel you know you got to have on.
For the best of the 2000s, tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 12 midnight.
So live your life.
Rhythm and flow.
Taking you back in the day.
Nation FM.
This is NTV.
All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you this bright morning. It's actually quite bright. And we are in a totally different location. We're not in studio, but we are at the largest referral hospital also in East Africa, all right? And that is at Kenyatta National Hospital. And it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we are here today. If you've never been in a theater, well, today we'll give you a glimpse of what exactly it looks like. And I must admit, I came here and I'm feeling some type of way. But that's besides the point, okay? So we're talking about breast cancer. And today we'll be focusing mostly on breast cancer treatment and care, all right? And there's so much that we need to discuss as far as breast cancer is concerned. It's not the first time that we're talking about it, but the biggest question is, why is it still a big burden right here in the country? What are some of the current trends and the treatment options for the same? You want to stick around until the end of the show. But if you are a breast cancer survivor or a warrior and you're watching us this morning, feel free to call in live and share your story with us. If you want to celebrate a breast cancer survivor, feel free to do so as well on our socials, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X. But to help us with the conversation this morning, I am joined by Dr. Eric Hungu, not a new face, maybe to some of you, who's a general and breast surgeon right here joining us this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric, for making the time. And we also have Dr. Sitna Mwanzi, who is a medical oncologist. Good to have you on the far left. And we have Eunice Wanjira Njaramba, who's a breast cancer survivor, here to share her story with us this morning. But Dr. Sitna, let me just begin with you. So breast cancer, this is not the first time that we're talking about it. We have had so many conversations surrounding the same. What is the current burden?
So thank you for hosting us. Breast cancer is still the most common cancer that's diagnosed worldwide. Okay. It's also the most common cancer diagnosed in Kenya. About 25% of all the cancers will be breast cancers in Kenya, followed closely by cervical cancer. So you can see that the cancer burden in women is very high. So the cancer burden is still high because I mean, we are in Kenya, it's kind of difficult to know the exact status because we know that many people go undiagnosed still. So we are probably missing out quite a number of women being diagnosed. The other difference in Kenya is that we see very young patients. We see patients as young as 25, whereas in the West, majority of the patients will be over the age of 50. And if you look at what are some of the risk factors, most of the time it's related to hormone exposure. So women obviously will have more estrogen compared to men. They'll have, so the issues around, fertility and kind of things. But there are things that we don't know. For example, what is the genetic makeup of the breast cancer in Kenya? So why are we getting people who are 25 or low age getting breast cancer? So there's still a lot of unknown about our own breast cancer. The other thing is majority of our patients come when they're in advanced stages, so stage 3 and 4. And there are multiple reasons for that. One, we don't have an organized screening method so that you come to the hospital before you get any symptoms to have screening done. Many people are still struggling to seek healthcare because of out-of-pocket payments despite all the advances with NHIF. And then there's also the fear from the community, like every time someone hears, I have cancer, they equate it to death, yet we know that there are very many people who can survive cancer like our survivor here.
Yes. Yeah. And we're so happy that she's here really to share her story. But before we talk to Eunice, very quickly, on the men, because the reason why I'm saying it's so weird that we talk about breast cancer almost all the time, but there's still a lot of misconceptions surrounding the same. And one of the things is men, okay? Because we're having a conversation one time in our office and people ask, but men also get breast cancer? So can we talk about the burden then when it comes to the men? And first of all, do they get breast cancer?
Yeah, actually, men do get breast cancer. Like Dr. Sitna said, the risk factors are usually hormonal.
Okay.
So, of course, men will be at a lower risk of getting breast cancer, but some will still get breast cancer. So the incidence is usually about 1%. And that's why we usually don't have like active screening programs for male breast cancer. And again, because of the reduced volume of breast tissue, what we usually suggest is that just like with the ladies, we should all be aware about what's normal for us, what's not normal for us, because it will still present the same way. Most times it will come as a lump. And by the time the men come to us, sometimes you find that the lump is quite big. They've been ignoring the symptoms. And then when it becomes a little bit inconvenient or it's progressed, then that's when they come to us, to hospital. But men can get breast cancer. They need to be aware that that can happen. So if they see anything unusual going on in their breast, they need to come to us.
And check. So we know for the women, it's usually a lump, and we're told, feel your breasts. You will feel a lump that is quite hard because there's so much happening in the breasts, right? So for the men, I'm just curious, what exactly does that look like? Do you also feel a lump?
Yeah,
because women have a lot of breast tissue, no?
So it will be easier to notice it in the men because they don't have so much breast tissue. But it will still present as a lump. Mostly it's a painless lump. By the time it's becoming painful, it probably means that it's progressed, it's complicated, it's probably ulcerated. And when it's ulcerated, it gets an infection, then that will cause some pain. But for the ladies, other than just looking out for the breast lump, there are other things that they need to look out for. So that's why we always suggest that they need to be self-aware of their normal anatomy, their normal, how it usually looks. And the breast self-examination. So that means every month you check how is it looking, is there any nipple changes, any skin changes, such things.
All right. And we'll talk about when exactly then do you need to do self-breast examination, because is it before periods or after? But let's speak to Eunice very quickly. So Eunice, let's go back to 2016, right? Something happened. You felt a lump and you went to get checked and you were told, there's nothing serious, you're okay, all right? Can we go back to 2016?
Thank you for having me. Okay, in late 2016, I felt there was something abnormal in my light breast.
Okay.
So it was a small lump, but I saw it was not something normal because it was not there before. So this a friend nurse of mine, I consulted, I talked to her, then she advised me I can go for a mammogram.
Right.
So I went in one of the hospitals in Nyeri. I was done the mammogram, then the results came that it was negative. He told me it's negative.
Okay.
So I went home. Then after that, maybe in 2017, I could feel the lump was going, it was becoming bigger. So, okay, there was a problem because there was also a problem of finances. So it's like I wanted to have a second opinion, but I was somehow limited. But when I realized it was now enlarging, I consulted another, a relative, a nurse also, who was here in Nairobi. And she advised me to come. That is, we came in 2018, October month, when the whatever is subsidized. So we came, then we were able to go to Aga Khan. I was done the mammogram. Then they found that there's something that was not conclusive. So I was also taken to the ultrasound machine. They also checked. Still, it was not conclusive. So at last, they gave me another letter so that I go and be done the ultrasound guided biopsy.
Okay.
So when that was done, the results came that I had, it was cancer. I was given the results. So that's when now we had to look for a doctor. And she recommended, she was helped by someone else that we were recommended to see Dr. Hungu. When we went to Dr. Hungu, he was so helpful. The way he attended to us, we got hope. There was hope. So from there now, we started with him. We went through, he advised us, and he suggested for us the best thing at that stage, because we were told it was in stage 2. So he advised us that the best thing at that time was to do the surgery to remove the breast.
All right.
And so that's where we started.
Yeah, I see that. So before we get to the treatment part of the same, so how is this possible that, one test shows negative and the other one shows that, she has cancer? It was what, at stage 2?
Yeah, at stage 2.
All right.
So it probably will not show negative.
Okay.
So what the recommended imaging modality for ladies over 40 is usually a mammogram.
Mammogram, okay.
But a mammogram, the reason why we don't do it in ladies who are below 40 is because of the density of the breast tissue.
Okay.
So younger ladies have more dense breast tissue. So when you do a mammogram, it might not be very revealing, and especially in like early stages of cancer or like the precancerous lesions, like the ductal carcinomas in situ and such things. So she said it was inconclusive. So on the mammogram, they'll probably say this is a BI-RADS 0, an inconclusive assessment.
All right.
So then for us to be able to make a decision one way or another, then you need to do a complementary ultrasound.
Okay.
So when you do the ultrasound, again, sometimes it might not show too much. It might just show some things there, like some slight changes in the appearance of the breast tissue.
Okay.
We usually call that some architectural distortion. So when you look and you compare with the normal beat, you can see that there's an area that doesn't quite look normal. But those two usually are adequate to come up with at least with an idea of what's happening.
Right.
If they're not conclusive, then we can do an MRI.
Okay.
Yeah. But once you see something, then the next thing usually is to do a biopsy. So sometimes you can do a biopsy in the office or in the minor theater, but most times you can do what is called an ultrasound-guided biopsy, which is what she had. And that can be more accurate because you're actually doing it in real time. As you're imaging, you can see the abnormal area, and you're actually targeting it with your biopsy needle.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Sitna, most of the time when we talk about symptoms, the most obvious thing that people would think is a lump, right? But what are some of these other symptoms that we should be on the lookout for?
I think one of the things that can be confusing sometimes is skin changes. Sometimes you can notice that the skin is red and it looks like it's infected. And that's one of the types of breast cancer called inflammatory breast cancer. It looks like it's an infection. And then people are treated many times with antibiotics and it's not improving. And that can be also difficult for us as clinicians to diagnose because sometimes there's no lump underneath it. Okay. So it's just skin changes. So when we do a biopsy for that, we'll do a skin punch biopsy to diagnose that. Another thing could be the nipple retraction, the nipple going in. So most of the time the nipple is outward, going in, or a nipple. Ignore nipple discharge. It could be a clear discharge, it could be a bloodstained discharge. Any discharge needs to be evaluated. Some people don't even have a lump inside the breast, they'll have a lump in the armpit, which is the axilla, and the lump could be part of the breast that is in the axilla, or it could be the lymph nodes that are in the armpit that actually start off as cancer. So there could be varied presentations. Some people actually present when the cancer is more advanced, so they'll have other symptoms such as cough, difficulty in breathing, bone pain, abdominal pain when the liver is enlarged. So you could have a wide range of presentations. Some people come with a headache, then you find that they have the cancer has spread to the brain. So you could have multiple ways in which patients will come the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And they say what 60, is it 60 to 70%, 70, 80% of people come when it is at the later stage, and would want to understand why. Is it because the symptoms then mimic other symptoms that sometimes it's very easy for people to ignore?
I think that there are multiple reasons. There are some factors that are related to the patient. Like Esther has said, like if you don't have money to go to the hospital, so you felt a lump, but you don't have money to go to the hospital, you don't have money to do the test, that can delay the time for us to diagnose you. And sometimes you can go to the hospital. For example, a common thing that happens is if you have a pregnant or a breastfeeding woman and they have a lump, they're told that this is related to their pregnancy, yet this could be cancer. So any lump, whether pregnant or breastfeeding, needs to be evaluated. So there are also system factors, like in the healthcare system. If you're coming from a place where there is no healthcare facility or a doctor who can examine you appropriately, and then you have to be referred to the next level of healthcare. So there are also those barriers in terms of health system referral. Yeah. And then some people will just come with stage 4 cancer, not because they have delayed anything, but because that is an aggressive disease that they have that can present in the later stages.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And Eunice, so the doctor says you have breast cancer, right? What is the initial thoughts, that comes to your mind? And how much information did you have, first of all, as far as breast cancer is concerned? Because you told me your case is not the first case of cancer in your family.
I actually panicked, and not only me, but even my family members, because we had experienced some not so good experiences in the past. I think I had mentioned that my dad had passed on through breast cancer. I had also lost a sister through colon cancer.
Okay.
A sister-in-law through breast cancer.
All right.
So when I was told I have cancer, I was shocked.
Yeah.
But I had support of friends and family. I remember this, my pastor. My pastor came at the right time. Actually, immediately I was given the results. They came with the wife and they really encouraged me. And they showed me cancer is not a death sentence. And from there I started confessing and saying I will not die. I will live and declare the goodness of the Lord. So from there I had a positive attitude, and together with my family they stood with me. My daughter and my son have never left my side. Doc is a witness. So I have had people who have really supported me, and from there I've been able to know that I can go through it victoriously and that I don't have to die from cancer. I can survive, and I've seen it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I see that, and we'll talk about support again before we end the conversation. But I know there are other risk factors that we did not talk about, and one of the things is breastfeeding. There's also a lot of conversation around contraceptive as well. So do you want to just make it clear for people to understand how that then either puts you or does not put you at risk of breast cancer?
So like Sitna said, usually it's related to hormones, so the female reproductive hormones.
All right.
So mostly it's estrogen that's implicated in the pathophysiology and how this disease will come about.
All right.
So then that conversation about contraceptives it is a risk factor. It has been shown to be a risk factor.
Okay.
And it's usually the contraceptives that contain estrogen.
Okay. Because I was about to ask which type exactly, but yeah.
The one that contain estrogen.
Okay.
And then about breastfeeding. So it had been shown in studies that ladies who have not had babies, who've not breastfed, have a slightly increased risk of developing breast cancer.
All right.
So the physiology, the theory behind this is because breasts undergo various stages of development.
All right.
So of course they start development while still in the uterus before the baby is born.
Okay.
So when all the organs are being formed, so then they'll be formed and then they'll get into sort of like a latent phase. So that now when babies are born, male and female, anatomy looks the same.
Okay.
And then at puberty, of course, now when the ladies now start getting their cycles, then they start getting their cycle, the female reproductive hormonal cycle.
All right.
So then that will cause the breasts to develop now, so that now anatomically there'll be a difference between the male and the female breast.
Okay.
So that's the second stage of development. And then now it's completed when they get babies, and now the milk production can start, because ultimately that is the function of the breast.
Oh, the breast eventually,
so when so different hormones come into play, so that once they are pregnant and they deliver and they start breastfeeding, then the breast cells undergo that last stage of development.
All right.
So it is said that before they get to that last stage of breastfeeding, then there's a slightly increased risk of getting that breast cancer.
Okay.
Yeah, at a cellular level.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to imagine all those things. Dr. Nasitna, very quickly, so we talked about self-breast examination. So when should we do it? How often should we do it? And how? If that is possible, because I see we have like 5 minutes before we go on a break.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question. So as Dr. Hungu was saying, that there are changes during your female cycle that happens to the breast.
Okay.
So even monthly, there will be changes to your breast. Most women know that during the period, the breast will become heavier, more lumpy. So examining at that point might be difficult. So it's better to do it like after the period is done, where there are least changes in the breast. Patients with larger breasts will find it more difficult to examine their breast. So we encourage you to do it once a month. There are several techniques to doing breast exam.
Okay.
So you can employ a circular motion. So the first thing is to just look. The breasts are not going to be the same. You'll have, normally one breast might be slightly bigger than the other, one might be higher than the other.
Yeah.
And so you need to know, this is how my breasts look normally. This is normal.
Right.
So some of the changes in the breast when you have breast cancer could be one breast becoming smaller. So, you know, becoming shrunken. You can see the changes in the skin we were talking about. You can have dimpling. You can have the nipple going in. So first looking in the mirror and saying, this is how my breasts look. And then also just like raising the hand and then examining all parts of the breast. You can use a circular motion or you can use an up and down motion, and making sure that the armpit is also looked at, the underarm, you also examine that.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is make sure you see a clinician to do a breast exam as well, and if you're over the age of 40, to do a mammogram. The reason we're talking about mammogram is you could have breast cancer that's very, very small. You will not feel it in terms of a lump, but when we do the mammogram, which is a type of X-ray, we could see early changes of cancer, such as calcification, and you could see a lump that is very small, which we might not be able to pick as clinicians, and you as a patient will not be able to feel. So that's the value of mammogram over clinical breast exam. So by the time you feel a lump, it's at least 1 centimeter, and a mammogram will pick something that's smaller than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For someone who is interacting with the term mammogram for the very first time, okay, do you want to just tell us what exactly, because I hear it's painful.
It depends on where you're getting it done. So I think many people actually don't go for mammogram because they have this feeling that it's painful.
It's painful, yeah.
But it's basically a form of X-ray for the breast. So the breast tissue is put between two plates, and then they are pressed, and that's the part that is uncomfortable, but it lasts like a very short time, and they take different images of the brain, of the breast. So then you have a qualified person, you know, like looking at them and saying whether this is normal or abnormal. And what Dr. Hungu said, when you're younger, even the 40-year-olds like myself, every time I go for a mammogram, I have to have an ultrasound because they say you have dense breast, we cannot completely say that there's nothing there. So many times you'll go for a mammogram, you'll be told to do an ultrasound. Sometimes they'll tell you do an MRI because they might be seeing something that is not clear and they need more tests to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dr. Hangu, do you want to speak on dense? Because when you say dense, a lot of people will think is the size of the breast, and what exactly does that mean?
So it's not exactly size. You could have small breasts that are quite dense. You could have large breasts that are not very dense. So the density is usually brought about by the glandular tissue. So the breast itself has several components. So there's a glandular part where the milk is produced. So that's the functional part. And then now there's a supportive part. So there's some fibrous tissue, there's some bit of fatty tissue. So when we say dense, is that the glandular aspect is more pronounced when you do the imaging. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Eunice, before we go on a break, we literally have a minute. Is it fair? No, let's just take a break, Johnson, if that is okay. Because I do not want to rush. You'll be like, in 1 minute, tell us this. All right. So let's take that break. But then when we come back, we'll really focus on screening. And this is as far as prevention of breast cancer is concerned. But like I said, any question that you have, feel free to send them our way at MTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, or you can, as well give us a call. Our lines are open, and we look forward to hear what you have to say as far as breast cancer is concerned. So see you on the other side of the break.
There's a lot going on at the moment in this house.
Their true identity is uncovered in the brand new unmissable Zari. Starts 23 October, only on Maisha Magic Plus, channel 163 on DSTV Access, GoTV Plus, channel 3.
Show off your best skin with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. Now with 5-in-1 complete care. The deeply nourishing formula prevents your skin from drying, with precious cocoa butter and deep moisture for smooth and healthy looking skin. Step out in confidence with our most complete care from the world's #1 skincare brand.
Candace, what's that?
I brought you a small bonus.
Bonus for what?
You got us 299 family dinners, 64 kisses on the cheek, 12 road trips to see grandma, 42 jokes from daddy, 49 laughs from mommy.
In over 60 years of dealing with numbers, we've learned that the numbers that matter the most to you are the ones that matter the most to us. NCBA Bank. Go for it.
This week we focus on seeds. Just which is which? Hybrid or saved seeds from the last season?
We know when it comes to using hybrid seed, then it reaches a point the vigor goes down. The production keeps on going down. It's not like the traditional seed that you'll find you're able to more or less maintain the same production, or if it goes down, it's by a very insignificant level.
Farmers will use their own harvested seed without any form of treatment. And the risk is that it may suffer problems during germination.
The formal seed, through breeding and all that, it is also adaptable to climate change, for example. Right now, you cannot predict how the weather will be tomorrow. You plant today, it doesn't rain. So you find that informal seed is also susceptible to weather vagaries.
You do your best out there, let us do our best in here with the disinfecting power of Jake. Because Jake cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home.
As a man, the way I handle my finances is more about thinking of the future. So as a young person who has had a father, it's thinking of the long game. So every penny that I get right now is going straight to my savings, hopefully to get more so that I can invest it. So I think as a man, that's how most of us think. Kama ufikiri hivyo, kuna kashida mahali. My name is Kevin Miner. I'll see you on the 3rd edition of the Man Cave on 28th of October. I can't wait. It's a man's affair. So see you then.
All holders are notified to report and surrender unclaimed financial assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFAA, on or before November 1st, 2023. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started.
We are on location. We are at the largest referral hospital in East African region. That is what I was told. And this is Kenyatta National Hospital. And we are in a theater. And like I said, if you've never been in a theater, then do not worry. We'll give you a feel of the same. And again, this is as far as breast cancer awareness is concerned. And today we're talking about treatment and care. And to help us with the conversation today, we have Dr. Eric Hungu, who's a general and breast surgeon. We have Dr. Sipna Mwanzi, who is a medical oncologist. And we also have Eunice Wanjira Njaramba, who is a breast cancer survivor, and we celebrate her today and so many other breast cancer survivors out there who are watching us this morning. All right, and like we said, if you have any question as far as breast cancer is concerned, or you want to share your story as well, and this is of a family member or friend, or if you survived breast cancer as well, feel free to share them with us on our socials at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Witty. So before we went on a break, there's that question of, first of all, diagnosis and also treatment. And do all cases of breast cancer results in surgeries? Okay, so we'll be answering that in a moment. But Eunice, you talked about support and how much of it you got from your friends and from your family members. But we all know how, like cancer can be very straining, especially when it comes to financially. So I'm just curious to understand, how was that for you? Did you have like some form of cover, and if so, how much was it, as far as to cover your diagnosis of breast cancer, before we talk about treatment?
Okay, when I was diagnosed, I had back in, maybe I can go back to 2011. All right. I was retrenched from the former employment I was in. Yeah. And it was so bad, such that we were not paid. Maybe we were only paid a third of our dues. Mm-hmm. And to date, we are still fighting for the same. Yeah. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I did not have an insurance, and maybe we only had NHIF, and maybe they could not cover everything that was supposed. And you realize even when you are going for screening, it doesn't cover, so you have to look for the money. So it was not a good experience. Mm-hmm. So what happened, maybe now when the tests, we just tried to look for money. We tried it, we got the money for the screening. Mm-hmm. Then about the surgery, the NHF was giving just a small part of it. Mm-hmm. Then the rest we had to get it from friends and family. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
All right. And Dr. Sina, I'm asking this because, is this one of the biggest gaps as far as, addressing and preventing and just, treatment of cancer is concerned?
Yeah. So quite a number of people do not have insurance cover. And we also know that our NHIF coverage in the country is still very low. Yeah. At least here in Kenyatta, the NHIF is covering for mammogram. So if you have NHIF cover and you need to do a mammogram, you can come to a hospital and you can get it done without paying for it if your NHIF is active. So one of the things that people do is they don't have NHIF for the longest, and then they become sick, then they start paying for NHIF, and NHIF does not become active immediately. So this is just to encourage people to get on board because it really helps. Whereas before NHIF wasn't covering for many things, right now it covers for quite a bit of the surgery, it covers for quite a bit of the chemotherapy, and covers for radiotherapy as well. So that has really improved in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, there's a lot of conversation surrounding universal health coverage. The president's going to launch that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So how much of an impact will this be as far as the fight against cancer?
I think for me, it's still an unknown, just to be honest. Maybe I haven't done my due diligence, but it's still an unknown because it's not something that's been rolled out for us to see, yes, this is going to impact. We are hoping that everything is being done is going to be for the good of the public, because actually people are out there suffering, especially if you have a chronic illness. The burden can be quite high on the patient and the family and the community. So we are hoping that those are some of the things that could be sorted out when we have universal health coverage.
Okay. Dr. do you want to contribute to this? I mean, especially when it comes to human resource, and also the state of our healthcare facilities and what needs to improve so that we sort of like win this fight against breast cancer or any other type of cancer.
So in terms of resources, we can talk about the capital investment sort of things, like the screening tools, the mammograms and CT scans for staging and such things.
Okay.
And then there's the human resource aspect of it. So in terms of the mammograms, I know there was the MES program that was equipping the county facilities. So at least we know, I think it's all the counties have mammogram machines.
Okay.
So that makes it easier for people to access the screening facilities. And then when it comes to reporting those mammograms, I think there's a way they're linked to a PACS system. So that's like an online cloud sort of thing.
Right.
So that some of the radiologists here in Kenyatta, I know Kenyatta is linked to some of those counties.
Okay.
They would be able to assist with some of that diagnostic, the procedure.
Okay.
And then in terms of now, when it comes to treatment, the personnel aspect, so of course it's usually not a one discipline or a one team kind of management thing. So that's why you have Sitna here in the oncology team, then you have the surgical team, and then now you have the rest of the team that's involved, the radiologists, the pathologists. You have to have the nursing component of it, which is very important. You need physiotherapy, you need nutritionists. So it's a whole big team. So these people are available.
Okay.
But now the challenge now comes to the numbers of maybe the oncologists.
That we have
but
in the country.
the number has improved.
Okay.
Because there are training programs locally, and I know previously the ministry was also facilitating people to go abroad to train so that they can come back and build capacity.
Okay.
And then now we have the universities that are training surgeons, because at the end of the day, the most commonly performed surgery for breast cancer is a mastectomy.
Okay.
So that can be done by any qualified and competent general surgeon. It doesn't necessarily have to be a breast surgeon.
All right.
And then now when it comes to now breast surgeons, so that number is a bit smaller, and they are mainly located in the bigger facilities.
Yes.
There's one in Kisii, then majority are here in Nairobi.
Okay.
So the utility of the breast surgeon would be when it comes to doing some more complex type of procedures, you want to give a more cosmetic outcome with a good outcome also in terms of treating the cancer.
Okay.
Yeah, but
all right.
the bulk of the work can be done out there. But again, it's not one team running the show.
Yeah.
So multidisciplinary. And here at KNH, we usually have a weekly multidisciplinary meeting. And it's not just for KNH patients.
Okay.
Because now with COVID, we learned that we can do things virtually.
Yeah.
So we get people logging in from the counties, and they actually come to us with their complex and their challenging cases, and it's all teamwork.
I see that. All right. Doctor, do you want to speak quickly on the different treatment options? Because we usually talk about chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, but there's also brachytherapy. I'm really curious to understand whether we're doing that in the country at the moment. But do you want to just speak about the current treatments that we have? Options,
So breast cancer treatment depends on the stage of breast cancer. So if you talk about the most commonly asked question by patients when they come to the hospital is, what is the stage of breast cancer? So Eunice has said she had stage 2 breast cancer. The way we do the staging is by looking at the size of the tumor in the breast, the number of lymph nodes that are involved in the armpit, and whether the disease has spread to other organs. And that's why patients will be sent for extra tests like a CT scan or a PET scan. So the early stages, stage 1 and 2, most of the time we will discuss in the meeting, and that's quite important to discuss in this multidisciplinary tumor board meeting. We look at everything, and then at the beginning we decide that this is what we are going to do. The other thing that determines treatment is the type of breast cancer. Not everyone has the same type of breast cancer. We look at some signatures on the cancer cells that determine whether your tumor will be hormone positive or something called HER2 positive, or all of them are negatives or triple negative. So a lot of the treatment will depend on the type of breast cancer that you have. But if you're looking at big blocks, the main treatments are surgery. And the surgery, I think Dr. Hongo can explain the different modalities of surgery. And then we do chemotherapy, and not all patients will require chemotherapy. So chemotherapy, where I work, we use drugs that we know kill cancer cells, and there are different drugs for different cancers. So for breast cancer, there will be different drugs. They won't be the same. Different patients might get different types of chemotherapy. And they're usually done in cycles, and if you get one today, you'll get another one either every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks for a predefined number of cycles. And then there's radiotherapy, which is the use of high-energy X-rays to kill cancer cells. And even in radiotherapy, there are many advances in how the radiotherapy is delivered, how the planning for radiotherapy is done. With regards to brachytherapy, the role for brachytherapy in breast cancer is not, I think brachytherapy is more like for prostate cancer and sometimes for things like esophageal cancer. So it's not a modality that we use in breast cancer.
Okay, but there's brachytherapy here in the
Yes,
country.
brachytherapy that we're using here is mainly for cervical cancer. Yeah.
I see. Okay. All right. So Eunice, you were told before we talked to Dr. about the surgery aspect of the same. So you were told surgery would be the best option. Okay. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about surgery? Because for so many women, it's like, will I lose my breasts? Yeah. So what was the initial reaction when you were told you have to go through surgery?
Actually, that time it did not occur to me how it will be after.
Okay.
Because it from the past experience with my relatives, I was ready for anything that will remove that burden from me.
Okay.
So that time I did not even think about how I would look after that.
Yeah.
So I was ready for anything. I did not want to waste any time.
Yeah.
So it was okay with me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And according to the way he explained to me, I was at rest. I was ready for it.
Yeah. Yes. And that's a good thing to hear, because a lot of people are really scared, to even think about surgery. But so then what is that process like? Who qualifies for surgery? Who does not qualify for surgery? If that's the thing.
Okay. So like Sitna said, not all patients will qualify for chemotherapy. So therefore, not all patients will qualify for surgery. So when we talk about breast cancer management, it's usually on a case-by-case basis.
All right.
And that's why when we do these multidisciplinary meetings, we have to discuss each patient.
Okay.
And when we are discussing, we are taking into consideration the tumor characteristics, the stage, and then we also have to take into consideration also what does the patient want. So like if it's a stage 4 breast cancer, meaning it's spread to the other organs, then most times you might find that surgery might not have a role. But again, this is on a case-by-case basis because it depends on which organ it has gone to.
Okay.
And then now when it comes to surgery, so like Dr. Sitton had mentioned earlier, sometimes patients come to us with quite a large tumor. Sometimes it's ulcerated. So when we are going for surgery, we need to be sure that in terms of treating the tumor, the cancer, that we are safe. So we don't want to go for surgery and cut and leave some tumor behind. So that's the first thing. We need to know that we are removing everything. So if the tumor is big and we are not confident that we'll be able to remove everything and be able to close our incision, then we can start with chemotherapy. So the chemotherapy can sort of reduce that size. And then now we can proceed to do safe surgery once they're done with chemotherapy. But then also you might find that some patients want a more cosmetic outcome. And like Sitna said, we're getting a lot of younger and younger patients coming to us.
That's true.
So people in their 20s, people in their 30s, even some ladies in their 40s. So that's also one of the considerations they have. And that's where now, again, that multidisciplinary aspect comes in. So as a breast surgeon, I can do some of those oncoplastic procedures, but sometimes they need a more comprehensive reconstructive surgery. So then the plastic surgeon comes in.
Okay. All right. Do you speak on mastectomy? So people really understand, because again, like I said, a lot of people think when you talk about surgery, it's like complete removal, but that is not always the case.
Yeah, so surgical options, there could be the mastectomy.
Yeah.
So there's a traditional mastectomy, which is what is the most commonly performed procedure still. It's what has been done for years. But now we are getting new techniques, new methods. There's what we call now a conservative sort of mastectomy, where you can remove. So when you do the traditional mastectomy, you remove all the breast tissue and the skin and the nipple, so that at the end of it, when you've finished closing up your incision, it's flat. So that's the traditional mastectomy.
All right.
The more conservative techniques, there's a skin sparing or a nipple sparing mastectomy. So this means that you position your incision in such a way that you're not removing the whole skin of the breast. And depending on the particular tumor, also talking about the location, you might also be able to spare the nipple. So it's sort of like you're going under the skin envelope, then you remove the breast tissue, and then sometimes you need to make a separate incision to remove the lymph nodes in the armpit. And then when you do this type of mastectomy, then it is usually paired with a reconstruction. So the reconstruction can either be in that same sitting or it can be later. And then the reconstruction can be two forms. You can either use an implant or you can use your own body tissues.
All right. I think some other time we'll talk about this implants and see the different types and you know what usually happens. But so then what does post-treatment, honestly, I don't want to say just post-surgery, but you know, they say the treatments care look like when we're talking about breast cancer?
Yeah, so I mean, post-treatment care is long-term. We usually see these patients for up to 5 years, sometimes longer than that. And it really also depends on the stage. So the post-surgical care is usually done by the surgeons, but we also participate in that because patients can have pain along the scar. They can have swelling on the arm because of the surgical changes that happened. So there's that. Most patients will be on a form of treatment after, especially the hormone-positive breast cancer. They might be on a pill for about 5 to 10 years. So we see the patients quite frequently. So the first 2 years, we keep a close eye on the patients because the risk of the cancer coming back is usually highest in the first 2 years. And then after that, so initially we'll see them maybe every 3 months for the first 2 years, and then we'll make it every 6 months for the next 3 to 5 years. The other thing we do is that we do an annual mammogram for the other breast to make sure that there is no cancer coming up, because once you have breast cancer on one breast, there's an increased risk of getting cancer on the opposite breast. So then that's the reason now we will be doing an annual mammogram for the remaining breast. So there's also the psychological support that is needed. Even some of the treatments that we give after, they can have side effects like a bone pain and, you know, psychological changes. There's also issues about sexual dysfunction, and then women who are in the reproductive age will have concerns about fertility because some of our treatments like chemotherapy may have an impact on fertility. So that's an important discussion to have with patients.
All right. Eunice, so what was that journey like for you? So after your surgery, you know, and just taking care of yourself, and at what point were you, you know, declared you are on remission?
Okay, the journey was not so sweet because you realize now after the surgery, now this part of me that is missing. There's no balance. So it was not very easy, but with the support maybe from the doctor and even from the family,
friends,
and yes, and then someone referred me to a group, women group, a group of cancer survivors. So we were able to encourage one another, and we were able to look for ways of balancing. So we looked for, there's something that we make, they are called prostheses. So we are able to make them, and then we put them where the other breast was removed, and you cannot now I know you can't even know which one is missing. So it has been good because of the support. Yes,
I see that. I see that. Okay. So like we said, we were focusing mostly on screening because we want to again prevent as much as we can. So what exactly does that look like? I know we talked about self-breast examination. Is that also considered part of the? Neither here or there. Okay. All right. So what is that? Okay. But what does that look like?
So screening basically means that we are taking people who don't have symptoms, who are healthy, and you need to check them to see whether they have early disease or not. So it's done in the normal, healthy, asymptomatic population. So the Ministry, of course, Ministry of Health has developed screening guidelines. It's a booklet. So it gives recommendations as per age group on what is the recommended screening and the timing of this screening. So from age 40 going on, it's recommended that you get a clinical breast examination with a mammogram every year. So from age 40 to age 55, you do that every year. But you don't have to wait for the 12 months to be up. Because when you come to the doctor or to the healthcare worker for the clinical breast examination, they will show you the correct technique of doing a self-breast examination. So that is also a very important aspect. Because we can't just leave health to the healthcare workers. We also need to take responsibility so that if it's not yet time to come back for your screening and you're doing your self-check and you notice something unusual, you don't have to wait for that time. You can always come back to hospital. So from age 55 to age 65, 75, it's every 2 years. Clinical breast examination and a mammogram. So most of our patients still opt to continue the annual, no harm done. And then from age 75, it is as per patient preference. So some patients will opt to continue annually. Some will say will come as per requirement. Now below age 40,
I was about to ask this. What happens in this group?
Below age 40, so from age 35 to 40, there's you would do the annual, and you also do an ultrasound. And then there might be a role to play for a mammogram. In case you might find something unusual on the ultrasound. So that would not be a screening mammogram per se, it would be like a diagnostic mammogram. So those are different things. And then below age 35, you can go every 2 to 3 years for clinical examination with an ultrasound. But there are also considerations as to what category of the population you fall into in terms of risk profiling. Because some people will be high risk population, some people will be average risk. So majority of people are average risk. So high risk would be someone who's had a family member or two, first degree family members with previous breast cancer. So first degree is either a parent, a sibling, or a child. You might have had previous breast cancer. You might have had previous radiotherapy for some condition on the head and neck. And you might have had previous lesion that was seen on imaging, which on biopsy was not cancer, but there are some sort of benign lesions, benign lumps, that might increase your chances of developing breast cancer later. So for those people, some of them might actually be younger than 40. Some of them might be in their 20s actually. And a mammogram and an ultrasound might not be of too much value. In such patients, an MRI would be recommended.
I'm just curious, for the men, then what does that look like? Are they also encouraged to go for screening? And then there's also this thing about fear of the unknown, right? What if I go and then I'm told that I have it? So I'd rather not. I really want you to speak on this, but also speak on the men as well.
I think the thing about fear, she has already mentioned it. She's living proof that if you are unwell, you go to hospital, you can get care, and you can get better. Because this is now, what, 5 years later. So people should know that knowing is actually in power, because you can do something about it. If you don't know, you won't be able to do anything about it. So I mean, screening for men is actually, like Dr. Hungu had mentioned, men have very little breast tissue. So by the time something is happening, they'll be able to pick it up earlier. I'm not aware of any screening guidelines that are there for men. So usually for men, it will be, you have a symptom, you go and you are told whether there's a problem or not. But we shower every day, I'm hoping. So you can easily,
at the very least,
you can check your breast as you shower. We actually have men with breast cancer. People, I wish we had come with a male breast cancer patient so that people can see that it's actually true. They can be young. Most of the time they're more elderly, but you can have young people with breast cancer, and they actually present with a breast lump. So these things actually happen.
Then what is it that we can do to prevent cases of recurrence? Because we've also seen that. And then one of the questions that people ask a lot, and I know doctors are very careful to answer this, and that is, so why is it that someone goes through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, maybe surgeries, and unfortunately still die?
I think all the treatments are aimed at reducing your risk of the cancer coming back.
Right.
So I didn't say eliminate, I said
Okay.
reduce.
Reduce.
Because, like you rightfully said, you could have done everything and it still comes back. But that goes back to what was the type of breast cancer you have, the biology of your cancer. So there are some types of cancer we know have a higher propensity of coming back, and there will be treatments to try and reduce that as much as possible. But this just tells you that there are just so many things about breast cancer and other cancers that we don't know, because we've given it our best shot and still something happens. But even if the cancer comes back, there is still treatment that's available. It shouldn't be that people should not come for their initial breast cancer because it's going to come back anyway.
Yeah.
You don't know which part of that divide you're going to lie in. Yeah, we have a lot of patients. In fact, today we have a clinic for just people who've been treated who are coming for follow-up. So we have loads and loads of patients who have been treated successfully and have not had a recurrence. Even those who have a recurrence, we're still taking care of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's what we're saying. Screening is very important. You know, for as much as you can. All right. Just go for screening at least once a year. They say, okay. So we need to end the show in the next like 4 minutes or so. So Eunice, I want you to speak to the people who are watching us this morning and thinking, okay, I want to go for screening, but I'm not too sure, you know, what if I am told? And also people who, you know, still a lot of myths and misconceptions surrounding breast cancer. What is it that you will tell the general population and also cancer survivors as well?
What I can say for the general population is that to take advantage of screening, and especially this month, October is usually a breast cancer month. And you can also even go for screening even for the others. Please take advantage of this month and love yourself such that you can set a day, maybe a day in a year, to be getting to be screened. Because the earlier you know, if you have a disease, the earlier you know it, the better. There's a more chance of treating and maybe being victorious. Because like mine, I know I am this far because it was it was discovered early. So it is important, everybody, whether you are a man or a lady, it's very important you be screened. And then for those who will be told they have cancer, it doesn't matter what it is not a death sentence. There's still a solution. God is there, and once you present yourself to the doctors, there is a solution. And mostly be positive. Because I remember when I was told I have cancer, being positive really helped me. Because I was always confessing, I will not die. I am living to declare the goodness of the Lord. So even how you take it is very important. Because some people will get shocked. They are not even ready for the treatment. They are not even ready for drugs. I remember there's a lady I was told she refused even to take drugs and she died. So it's good to take it positively and get help. Even if you don't have money, just take it positively, present yourself to the health center. And wachie mengine Mungu.
Yeah,
yes.
That's true. Okay, we like the positive aspect of the same. Positivity and attitude. All right, Dr. Sikna, what is it that you tell the people?
Yeah, I think Eunice has said go to the hospital. Also, healthcare workers are really prone not to go for screening. So to my other healthcare workers who are out there, please go for screening as well. You as a clinician have to take care of yourself. So everyone needs to go for screening. There's age-appropriate screening. Screening is available here at KNH. Your mammogram will be covered by NHIF. We are here to take care of you, whatever the stage of cancer you have. So if you're unwell, please come to the hospital.
All right, and screening is ongoing at the entire month of October here at KNH. Okay, all right. All round. Okay, but there's special emphasis on October. Okay, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Okay, so we are in your territory, theatre. So do you want to just give us a feel, literally, so a feel of what exactly, because there's so many things here. And like I said, came in here and got a different feel, and so what is all this as we wind the show? Yes.
Just an overview. So of course there's a theatre team that knows all these things in there.
Yeah, they're actually at the back. You can't see them, but yes.
But of course you have the operating table. It's adjustable. It can go to different heights depending on the height of the surgeon or the operating team and exactly what you're trying to access.
All right.
It can tilt side to side. This is the anesthetic machine. This is where the anesthetists do their thing and allow us to do our thing.
Okay.
So that's a ventilator and the monitors. And then, so when you look on that side, there are some gadgets. So those are like the energy devices, because of course when you're doing our surgery, we want to minimize bleeding.
Yeah.
So that would be called cautery. There's some other types of energy devices that we utilize to help us make our surgery a little bit easier.
Okay.
On that side is a suction machine, so it can be used to suck away the so when the energy devices are in use, of course they can produce a little bit of smoke, so you need to suck that out.
Okay.
And then when you're done with the surgery, some surgeries you might need to do what we call an on-table lavage. So that means you're washing sort of our solutions. So that suction is useful for trying to suck away that fluid that you've used for doing your on-table lavage.
Okay.
It's also useful for the anesthesia team when they are waking the patient up from anesthesia. There are a lot of secretions from the airway. So if we're not careful, that can cause some aspiration. The patient might choke. So that can be useful for suctioning away those secretions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, we have to drape in this beautiful, beautiful. Yes. Okay.
And these hairnets.
Yes. So what is it that then you will tell people who have, this fear as far as, theater and surgery and all those things are concerned? First of all, the slides are too hot. But
Nice,
okay. Yes. But yes, what is it that we can do to sort of change that mentality as we literally end the conversation in 10 seconds? It's not enough, but try.
So I think at the end of the day, we do our best to try and communicate to the patient, to try and put them at ease. So of course people have different personalities. Some people will be more prone to anxiety, some people are not. So as part of our management, we also recommend some counseling services, some psychologists to take a review. But at the end of the day, before we bring in someone to surgery, we do what is called an informed consent. So we have to explain everything that we intend to do, and they need to understand.
All right.
And then usually I have them just say it back to me to see how they've understood so that we know that we're on the same page.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is what we can do to try and make someone at ease, comfortable, but really we can't do too much beyond that. So the rest is like Eunice said, her attitude was very positive.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the main thing.
Yeah. Okay, all right. But for now, we have to say goodbye. So much to cover. But we have to say goodbye, Dr. Ekungu, General and Breast Surgeon. We had Dr. Sitna Mwanzi, who's a medical oncologist, and not forgetting Eunice Wanjira Njaramba, who is a breast cancer survivor, here to share her story. So thank you so much for your time this morning. We've learned a lot, and we hope that you've also learned a lot as far as breast cancer is concerned, because remember, over 3,000 people, all right, are dying from breast cancer, and that makes it the second leading cause of cancer deaths right here in the country. So that means about 7 or 8 women are dying every single day, and that should not be the case. So let's do as much as we can to prevent. Go for your screenings as well, very, very important, so that we know what exactly we're dealing with. So we'll continue with the conversation online, and that is on our socials at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X as well. But for now, right here, we're saying goodbye on your world. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead, and please go for screening. My name is Winnie Lumbembe. See you tomorrow.
Reach your audience instantly and make a lasting impression with Nation Sema. Affordable SMS at 0.3 Kenya shillings. Own sender ID for 10,000 Kenya shillings plus 10,000 free SMS. To sign up, please call 0790 111 111 or email us on nationsema@ke.nationmedia.com.
I'm Engineer Peter Njenga, Managing Director and CEO of KenGen. I'm excited to announce my participation in the upcoming ManCave 3rd edition. I'm eager to engage with fellow men, sharing insights and learning from one another. Personally, I'm passionate about engaging our youth in matters of career growth and family. KenGen is delighted to work with Nation Media Group on this valuable initiative as it aligns with our vision of nurturing holistic individuals. I eagerly anticipate your presence at this event, and together we can inspire and shape a better future for ourselves and the community.
This is NTV.
Welcome to this conversation on Business Redefined, your weekly, most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance, and economics. Now, last week and also into this week, presentations have been made to the National Assembly Finance and Planning Committee on matters regarding proposals on how to re-engineer Kenya's tax regime. And one of the proposals, a very bold one I should say, is to abandon the graduated tax regime to have